Yeah, right. Okay. No, I used to live in Kenya when I was about 5 or 6 years old.
Okay.
And we were in this wildlife park in a grey Morris Minor. This rhino started chasing us. There's me and my sister in the back seat.
Right.
It was like something out of Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
We were turning around saying, "Believe it, Dad. Just put your foot down, Dad. We're in a field. Put your foot down." This rhino was chasing us.
One from Mark here in Derby. Went on holiday for our first romantic holiday to Tunisia years ago. Decided to take my girl into a petting zoo. I got a bag of food to feed the animals. A giant goat then went for me, putting its front legs over my shoulders and proceeding to headbutt me over a fence into one of the pens, covering me in the food and making my nose bleed. I got out of the pen, then the goat and all his mates attacked me again, sending me running and screaming like a girl out of the zoo, with my girlfriend rolling with laughter on the floor.
A tarantula climbed up the bottom of the bed on the sheet.
Yeah.
And it walked all the way up. It's eyeball to eyeball.
Wow.
And I thought to myself, what am I going to do when it climbs over my face? But then a miracle happened. It raised its 2 front legs and waved them around. And then it turned around and walked down the side of the sheet.
Boris Johnson been attacked by an ostrich. The former PM was enjoying a safari trip with his family when the bird leaned into his car and went oi oi and pecked his hand. In footage shared online, he quickly jerked from the ostrich. Don't dirty minds away from the ostrich, and shouted, "Oh, Christ, get hell," before driving off. And so I just set it out there. Have you been attacked by an animal? When I was about 7, says Trevor Jenkins.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and good morning. If you are up with the birds like I am, give yourself a pat on the back and a gold star. What's your excuse? Wake up for a wee, did ya? Haven't been able to go back to sleep? I'll tell you what, that was me last night. I don't think I've slept 1 minute. You know what it's like when you get a really early morning alarm, when you've got that morning flight and it sort of looms over you ominously. You think, I'm going to go to bed really early and I'll get a nice 7 hours sleep, and then you sort of don't sleep for an hour, and then it's 2 hours. Like, well, if I can still get 5 hours sleep, I'll be okay in the morning. Then it's 4 hours, and then you go downstairs and make a cup of tea and go, just 3 hours sleep? Well, I can survive on that. And then you start pleading with God, going, come on, just 10 minutes, anything at all. And then the alarm goes off and you're like, here we go, then off I go to work without having slept just a moment. Not because I'm a party girl, no, I was in my t-shirt on the sofa at 7 o'clock last night watching And Just Like That, which is that horrible remake of Sex and the City, which is like watching a slow car crash, because I thought, this is tedious, this is terrible, this will send me to sleep. And I walked upstairs feeling pretty drowsy. But no, it was sticky and it was hot, and the bed sheets were my enemy. And my brain, I hate my brain. Tick, 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 everything, like multiple tabs open. I'm like, come on. Anyway, I'm going to get through the next 4 hours, and do you know why? Because you're going to help me. That's right, sharing is caring. It's care in the community. I turn out all the time for you guys, don't I? I give you the news, I give you my opinions, I make you feel rather sane. You realise you're not alone in hating this government and the state of the nation. We can have a good old whinge together. That's right, communal catharsis, like I always call it. Well, it's time to give back and help Alex get through to 10 o'clock. You know what I mean? Good. That means you have to call up, don't you? So I don't have to use my brain persistently for 4 hours. I can actually have a little mini holiday while you do some of the heavy lifting. 03444991000 is the charity phone number to help Alex survive this morning. And it's your normal network rates. We don't even charge you for it. You can also send me a WhatsApp message or leave me a voice note of moral support. 03444991000. 8722 is the number if you'd like to send me a text message instead. But if you're gonna wang over your text in that old format, then you've got to write the word talk before you type out the rest of your thoughts. Otherwise, I don't know, it just doesn't get here. Lord knows why. Do I look like I got a science degree? I can't even use the side of my brain that works right now. We're on X at talkTV, and here we go, go, because it's Saturday and I'm joined by the one and only fantastic former Met Police detective, Peter Blexley. Do you know, I was about to call you Sir Peter Blexley then. I'm so tired, I knighted you.
Well, ma'am, I will keep with conventions because you're the boss I'm here to help. And, sickeningly, I had those 7 hours sleep last night.
Don't.
So I'm perky and raring to go.
I don't use the word sickeningly. Have you seen the congestion I've got, the cold? That's the other reason I couldn't sleep, because I had that thing, you lie on that side and that side of the nose gets blocked up. And then you roll over on that side and you can feel the bubbles coming through your sinuses and behind your eyeballs, draining all the fluids to that side of your skull. Like, oh, well, better go back to that nostril then. Oh. So don't even use the word... I don't want to hear the word sickening at all today.
That's put me firmly in my place, hasn't it?
I've banned it. It's
Didn't
on the
take long.
blacklist. Alex has decided that this is her words, that she's not allowed. See? Sickening. I'm allowed to say it.
I've got something to cheer you up.
Go on.
I've got a couple of tickets for Coldplay. No, I'm happily married, right? That's just a bad game.
Oh, I see. Were you inviting to take me for a little bit of a cuddle on Kiss Cam? Is this what you're talking about? Should we have a little...
Happily married man. It was just a gag.
Oh, I see.
Yes, but it didn't work out too well for a particular couple, did it, going to Coldplay?
Can you imagine that? Like sneaking off to a concert with the person you're having an affair with, and all of a sudden Kiss Cam's invented, and you come up on the big screens, it's all over social media. Apparently, the tickets might have cost him about 500 quid a pop to go and snuggle up to the HR manager or whatever she was, but the divorce is going to cost him 30 million.
It's a great story. I love it. It's like when they show the camera during a test match, for example, the cricket, when the cricket's on, and you put the camera on and you see that bloke realises that he's on the big screen and he's probably thrown a sickie. You know, it's that kind of thing, and that's why I think it took off wonderfully yesterday.
Should I have a little watch, actually? Because the good old team behind the glass have managed to dig it out of the archives. This is how efficient they are at 6:07 on a Saturday morning. Yeah. Let's have a watch.
Oh, look at these two. All right, come on. You're okay? Oh, what? Either they're having an affair or they're just very shy.
Yeah, I think we know what's going on there.
Rumbled, properly rumbled.
Good, I'm glad. Good, there's poetic justice in the world.
Infidelity, and they got found out. Serves them right.
Yeah, indeed. Now, talking about sickening, which I'm allowed to do and you were not.
Certainly.
This blimmin' story about the Afghans. The Afghans who are coming over in their droves. Lawyers are going to be using the ECHR because, of course, we did say we would bring troops who fought alongside ours, government workers, translators, the allies of the Western forces over there, and help them because there'll be a kill list now set up by the Taliban to bump off anybody who is seen to cooperate with those who are trying to fight them. And part of me is like, well, that's a good thing. I think it is right if we've gone into a country and there have been brave men and women who have served alongside us, put their lives on the line, then we sort of owe it to them to potentially offer them some sort of refuge. But 100,000 of them, and then this story that apparently some Afghan migrants have brought as many as, drum roll.
Yeah.
How many family members do you reckon?
I've read it. I know. I'll let you do the big reveal.
The big reveal, ladies and gentlemen. Not one. No. Not 2, not 10, no. Not even 15.
There you go.
22! 22 family members! That's the entire blimmin' village! How is that possible? Either his wife, or wives plural, are in pretty bad shape because they've been churning them out like a rabbit, or this is, you know, swinging the lead.
But there's a real big point here, courtesy of that judge whose name you might be familiar with.
Oh, don't tell me.
Justice Yip.
Oh,
right?
That was not the one I was going for, but interesting name.
Justice Yip, in her infinite wisdom, ruled that family members do not actually have to be bloodline family members.
So what are they then?
There could be some other cultural consideration which therefore makes them family. Do me a favour. But this cuts across a much bigger issue, and I'm a huge fan of our military. I think they are the very best of us. But, you know, fighting wars in foreign lands, in cultures, in communities that you have no understanding of, that our political leaders have no understanding of, is an utter folly. And we know this. Look at Iraq. Look at Afghanistan. And the whole kind of contradiction of trying to impose democracy at the end of a barrel of a gun is a bit of a contradiction in terms, isn't it? How can you be democratic or else? It doesn't really work like that, does it?
Right, yeah, you're going into a country and being like, do you know what, all these beardy weirdies who are making your life a misery, we're going to sort them out for you, and then the minute we go, there they are, running everything. I mean, it doesn't stand up to scrutiny. Like I said, I do treat this subject with some nuance. I treat the super injunction with some nuance. I do not agree with super injunctions. I do not believe that they exist. If it was used to try and keep from the public the fact that tens of thousands of Afghans are just coming into the country and being embedded directly within our community, and I cannot imagine, given the number that they have all been properly security checked and vetted. In fact, the Telegraph was reporting yesterday they believe only 1 in 16 might be credible to actually claim asylum. But given that there might have been disclosures of details of, agents and operatives and SAS and their families and people who then might be at risk, have their lives and their families' lives at risk, is a reason to make sure that certain details are not disclosed. And yet I wonder what has really gone on here. But what we do know is going on is the fact now that not only do we have the insult of all the illegal migration coming from these hostile countries who, like you said, do not have our cultural mores at all, hate Western values, that we cannot check who they are. Not only do we have unprecedented levels of legal migration, what we keep hearing from the left when it comes to, one of the reasons we have to stop the boats is because we need to set up safe passages aboard. What about safe routes? Safe routes. Well, this is what happens when you have a blimmin' safe route. They bring 22 kids and you don't know who they are.
And let me quote a paragraph from the front page of the Telegraph today, if I may, whereby Telegraph sources in Afghanistan have told the paper that in the chaos that followed this breach, criminals, including staff who had stolen from bases and sold weapons to the Taliban, had come to the UK with large numbers of family members, while military commanders who served alongside the army had been left behind. Criminals. People who have stolen.
Right.
We've welcomed them in
terrorists.
to the UK.
Oh, people who aid and abetted actual terrorists who probably therefore quite like what the terrorists believe. Isn't that just perfect?
Isn't it? But let's rewind, if we may, to the original data breach.
Yeah.
OK, because apparently it was committed by a Royal Marine, all right? Well, I think Royal Marines are probably best equipped with assault rifles rather than laptops. I think that's called me a bit old-fashioned, but that's where I like my Royal Marines.
Got a bit trigger-happy on that old email, didn't he?
Yeah, but look at even the most basic email systems that we have. I certainly, speaking for my emails, if I send one, it often pops up with a warning. It looks like you're sending sensitive information. It comes up. The checks and balances are built in to the most basic email systems that are used by millions of us every day. And I'm not sending particularly sensitive information, you know what I mean? I'm sending an invoice to try and get paid invariably. And these warnings come up, and then it says, you haven't included an attachment. Do you want to? These checks and balances come up on each and every email that you write and look to send. So now we're talking about MOD commissioned systems. How can it possibly be that such checks and balances, the very, very basics that apply to millions of email accounts, weren't in place?
And who was he sending it to? I still don't understand the root of all of this, because there's sort of a suggestion that wherever it ended up was hacked anyway, and that this information was put on with Arabic lettering and all the rest all over Facebook, ha, we know who you are, that kind of thing. And surely there is a risk here as well that the system might have deliberately been hacked, things might have deliberately been leaked in order to try and flood our country with enemies.
Yes.
You can't rule it out.
And whilst I'm having a bit of a groan about the IT, could it be that yet again sharp-suited IT people have ripped off the taxpayer by selling to naive people in the public sector, which happens a lot, IT systems that are not fit for purpose? This happens repeatedly in the public sector. Look at policing. They're forever moaning, because what happens is people from these IT companies, OK, they sit in front, essentially, of civil servants or police officers who are fundamentally not business-minded and will not probe enough. And so they end up getting hoodwinked into buying these systems that only when they roll them out, thousands of civil servants, thousands of police officers and others in NHS, in education, all these kind of places in the public sector, and they turn around and go, these systems are not fit for purpose because some clown in a senior position has been had over, hoodwinked, and paid millions of public money for systems that are just not good enough. And this happens repeatedly in the public sector. And you know what? Even if you trot off down to PC World or something, other computer outlets are available, and you go to buy your personal laptop, don't you speak to that person who's selling it to you? Don't you kind of interrogate them to make sure that you are getting a system that is fit for purpose, that you are getting a laptop that works for whatever particular things you do on it?
It's like when we found out air traffic control at Heathrow or something completely closed down because someone had upgraded Word 98 or something. Do you remember that story? It's like, what on earth are we running this country on? But talking about, you know, things that are, you know, not fit for purpose, all these blimmin' immigration lawyers who get millions, if not billions of pounds of public money because we pay as the taxpayer both the government to be defended and the blimmin' person who's trying not to be deported, etc. In this case, there's a law firm who are using ECHR to try and force the UK into accepting thousands more Afghans, each with their 22 distant relatives.
Not blood.
Not blood. And there's one particular law firm which are basically doing the bulk of this work. So I went onto their website, didn't I? It's called Bearings, B-A-R-I-N-G-S. And the minute you go onto their website, it flashes up like, you know, it's almost like a PPI thing. It's like, are you an Afghan who wants to sue the UK government? June. And I'm like, how dare you? How dare you? Because when people talk about suing the UK government, it's very easy to go, well, the government ought to pay. Oh, the government let everyone down. Oh, the government got this wrong. Sue the government. The government isn't what's being sued. It's you.
Yeah.
It's me. Yep. It's everyone listening who's ever paid a penny in tax. You're the one being sued who's got absolutely naff all to do with this data breach, naff all to do between whichever side of the argument on whether you want Afghan refugees with 22 family members non-blood or you don't. You're paying both sides anyway. It's us footing the bill. And, you know, it actually sticks in my core when you see these law firms just out, you know, in for a penny, in for a pound. Let's make as much money as possible. Oh, it's the noble thing to do. Everybody deserves a defence. Everyone deserves a right to legal representation. Everyone gets to appeal their deportation order 5 blimmin' times. No, why? Why can't it just be like, sorry, we came in, we messed up your country, but actually, you know, bad foreign policy. I know that sounds awful, but that's how most other countries in the world go about doing things. You know, I don't see Russia in about 10 years' time going, well, we better let all the Ukrainians move here now. Did some bad there, didn't we? And I'm not, like I said, there's nuance to this. I have utmost sympathy. I would like, if women were working in the Afghan government, for us to give them shelter. Because I would imagine if you're a woman working in the Afghan government, you're probably not having a good time under the Taliban, and you're probably a good un, and probably very little harm to society. And similarly, with translators, anybody educated to a Western level where you've got fluent English probably shares quite a number of our cultural mores, because often the more educated in society have probably had a Western education, get the way we work, and rather like us. Other than that, nada. No, we can't. Because what we have learned as well, looking at crime statistics, is this particular cohort, I'm not saying, you know, the people who work for the Afghan government, but people coming from this part of the world, are significantly overrepresented when it comes to the perpetration of certain crimes. And you have to ask yourself, where are these people going to be accommodated?
I'm just going to pick up on your Bearings, that company now.
Yeah.
I'll get the legal rider in first, because no doubt they would deny this. But they are surely operating against the best interests of this country.
Yeah.
And therefore, in my view, they're enemies of the state. They are looking to keep people in this country when many of them clearly have absolutely no right whatsoever to be here and probably do not have this nation's best interests at heart. Therefore, for me, they're my enemy.
Yeah, I think it's about time we started looking into some of these immigration lawyers and law firms who are making a lot of money from cashing in on whether it's the channel boats and people traffickers or whether it's this old scam.
Yeah, indeed.
And like I said, where are these people going to go? Into which communities are they going to be placed? We've actually got a really brilliant clip from our Mike Graham, who was asking the MP Katie Lamb just that.
And let me just ask you about the Afghan story, because obviously, you know, it's a massive problem for the Tory government of the last few years, with Rishi Sunak in charge of it. Also a massive problem for Labour as well. But in terms of the people who have come in, and it looks like there might be about 36 or 40,000 by the end of it, are we supposed to support them for the rest of their lives? Is that supposed to be them coming in here to get a free house and free benefits and all the rest of it? Because if we're giving them a free house when they get here, what incentive is there for them to pay for anything?
Well, again, under the current system and what they would qualify for, the answer is basically yes. I mean, I'm sure a lot of them will choose to work, but we are making it a choice.
Yeah, but if they choose to work, what's the point of them choosing to work to try and buy a house if they've already got a free one?
Yeah, or a car or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
I mean, particularly for social housing, especially if there are children in your household, then...
And most of them have kids, as far as I know.
Yeah, and the way that the housing list works, you will go straight to the top of the housing list. So it's inevitable that there will be a lot of British people who are waiting on that social housing list who will go down many, many, many places.
Yeah, and it's...
I'll finish that sentence for you, Mike. It's disgusting. I'll tell you, I got a little bit of proud news for you.
Go on.
Peter, I've already told you, so do you feign surprise when I give you this breaking Alex news, but you, the audience, don't know. I reached a milestone in my life yesterday at the age of 41 years old.
You don't look it.
Thank you. I toil hard, and that sort of, 3:30am alarm, which doesn't even matter because I was awake anyway all night. Must be good collagen, or the chicken skins I eat. Anyway, my Alex Phillips breaking news is at the age of 41. Hold on, get the drum roll out again, Tech Up. I liked that earlier. He was ready with that earlier, and we're doing our how many... It's a long drum roll, isn't it?
It is.
I bought my first house.
Congratulations.
I know.
Many congratulations.
I'm 41 years old.
Better late than never.
41. And I'm finally on the housing ladder. And I have toiled. I started work at the age of 14 delivering newspapers, and I've worked every day since, whether it's pushing trolleys, working at checkouts, pulling pints, dressing like a tart in a nightclub. Done that and all. Data input for the NHS. I have done it all. And I pay probably the highest rate of tax plus because of IR35. So finally at the age of 41, I get my own bricks and mortar, having basically bled out of my backside for most of my adult life paying into someone else's trust fund in the rental system. And now I suddenly realise that the whole time it's taken me the best part of 25 years to buy a place. Oh, that's great. You come over on the boat and mitt up our girls, and that's fine. You just get given a house. It makes me so cross. And it isn't just about the economic unfairness of this, which is mental. When you look at where a lot of people have to live in other countries when they are refugees, including those in Calais who are queued up on the sand dunes waiting to get in their little old boats, they're living in bivouacs and tents made of bin bags. And I'm not saying that we say, here you go, have a tent made of bin bags, but we certainly shouldn't be saying, here's a 5-star hotel.
There really is a far, far bigger question, though, of you buying your first house, which is, of course, when's the housewarming party? You don't have to declare that on air because there'll be a cast of thousands descending upon you.
Like mob things, a mob. What do they call it? These parties?
Flash mob.
Flash mob or whatever. Actually, a flash mob would be good if I actually sort of buy my first, when I go and open the door, if I've got like people outside or singing sort of like, our house is a very, very, very fine house, like a barbershop quartet or something, I'd be quite delighted.
Well, if you do let me know, because I would like like to come and
you'll
share
be
the
there,
joy
Blexley.
and have a nose around your what I'm sure is a beautiful home, or you certainly will make it so. I'd love to see that. And,
It's not in London.
It's not in London. Great, an excuse for me and my wife to have a weekend away. No
Exactly.
doubt. Yeah, lovely. Well done you. Yes, if only you'd arrived on a boat, of course, you could have had it virtually the minute you arrived, and you would have leapfrogged so many people on the housing list. But alas, you've had to go down the hard route. Have you got a 600-year mortgage, or is it a bit shorter than that?
Oh, Alex is already the age of Methuselah. She ain't going to live that long. I think I've got 25 years or so. 'Cause
Okay.
I'm already in my 40s, aren't I? I'm already, like, decrepit.
Yeah.
Already got aches and pains in my joints.
Oh, behave. You're a mere pup, young lady, let me tell you.
But this is before we go to break, because this is the other thing, this startling revelation that 1 in every 100 migrants in these hotels
Yep.
has committed a crime. And when I say committed a crime, they have been dragged before magistrates. Now, normally if you're dragged before magistrates, that means the police have actually had to go to the lengths of charging you. And I have it on good authority when police are called to fracas within these migrant hotels. They're sort of advised not to, because it could lead to even worse repercussions.
Tensions in the community. That kind of nonsense.
So this is the amount of actually being dragged in front of magistrates,
Yes.
which tends to be a bit of a schlep in our legal system. 1 in 100. And we're not talking about, dodgy documentation. You've been working for delivery when you shouldn't. No.
Yep.
Rape, robbery, GBH, proper, hard-nosed, society-destroying crime.
Yep.
That's just, what is going on?
Yes, these are the ones that have gone to court. So it begs the question, how many have received cautions for other criminality? I asked that question. It needs to be answered. And remember, these are just the ones that have been caught.
Exactly.
OK? What about those who have committed crime and not been caught?
And also, what about those people who are committing what I think, well, I don't think they should necessarily be crimes. We've got enough crimes as it is. But people who actually just make other people's lives misery, leering men who whistle and follow you up the street with your eyes and then, paddle along after you, hey, you're beautiful. That's not, no one's going to end up in front of magistrates for that. But that makes our lives hell.
Well, you see, if we rewind many decades to when I wore a police uniform, I might construe that behaviour as likely to cause a breach of the peace.
It certainly breaches my peace.
So it would be, come here, mate, slap the handcuffs on, get in the van, mind your head. That would happen seriously. If somebody, in my days of policing, was following a woman down the street, harassing them in the manner that you just showed, then I would say there is quite a high likelihood that there is going to be a breach of the peace. If not by you, but by somebody you might call upon to help you. Therefore, that person would have to be nicked.
No, I should hope so too, if only that would ever happen. Now, talking about breaches of the peace and pervy men, we're going to be focusing our attentions after the break on the protests in Epping Forest. We're back after this.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yeah, that. The Parking for Fairford Air Show opens at 6 o'clock. Flying begins at 10. I should know. I'm there tomorrow. I can't wait. I love Fairford Air Show. So if you're tuning in for breakfast tomorrow morning and you do not see my haggard-looking face, it's because I'm looking at jets doing crazy stunts in the sky, as I want to do every year. Because in my world, things that go up, Mach 1 are things that I enjoy. Let's do a couple of messages and then we'll get on to Epping Forest, because some of you fantastic people are already showing your moral support. I love that. John in Portsmouth says, good luck, Alex. I'm sure it will be a fantastic show with Peter. Well, we're half an hour in and I'm surviving so far, but I don't know what I'm going to be like come that final hour of the programme. Lord knows what's going to come out of my mouth. Funny thing about the Coldplay thing is they haven't made a single for ages, and now they've made two at once.
Very good.
Yeah, everyone in the gallery is clapping at that. Can I just say,
good.
Jeff, you brought a smile to all of us. We liked that. Alex and Peter, you watched that canoodling couple will try and sue Chris Martin for their kiss cam reveal of their dalliance. Some UK lawyer would help them. And Mark in Selby says, Peter, I'll go see Coldplay with you. Morning, Alex. Watching the show, I haven't been able to sleep either, as I'm overexcited as I'm off to Fairford today. We're going to miss each other. Weather is a bit poor today, but it'll still be a good day. Love the show. Darren from Birmingham. This is the curse of Fairford. We've had the best summer. It's been like blazing hot.
Yep.
You kind of think the grass is going to set on fire.
Yep.
I was like, got to pack my factor 50 for lying in a field watching all those airborne activities.
Yep.
And then, of course, it gets to the actual weekend and it rains.
Yes.
So, but that's the British way. Sit on my deck chair tomorrow with my cagoule on, that horrible itchy sort of fabric, the elasticated fabric, with my pint of cider. I still love every moment. I don't even think there was a list, says Alan in Merseyside, about the Afghans. I think it was a way of our two governments letting migrants into our country by the back door. For some unknown reason, our two governments love the migrants. Two governments, I'm assuming, Tories and Labour, rather than
I think so.
Our government and the secret one, who's also there. Which is otherwise called the EU and the UN and all the rest of them, basically.
Yeah.
Alex, you are lying, says Zach in Brighton.
I beg your pardon.
He says I'm lying. He says I don't look a day older than 28.
Well.
Yeah, asked in HMRC. Shut up, Dean. Dean just said I looked 58 in my ear. This is the bullying I have to tolerate. When I do this show at a weekend, yes, he might buy me breakfast from time to time. The other week he called me fat.
Alex.
Now he says I look 58.
Leave it to me.
Yeah, I know. See, you got Blexley after you now, son. And he ain't going to have sympathy just because you're another Londoner. He's going to pull you limb from limb like an angry chimpanzee. Anyway, talking about angry people, what is going on down in Epping Forest? Well, of course, people are being tarnished with far-right protests, racist activists. Let's have a listen to a woman who was at that demo.
I just want to thank everyone for coming here today. We're all local people. We're all good, local, tax-paying people. We don't want trouble. We don't want fights. My question would be, why, and all due respect to the police, why are you allowing agitators to come and fight against us? Because you are inciting violence. We're not. You are. Mr. Starmer, I hope you're going to hear, I hope you hear this. Why are you letting 500-600 undocumented men come across the channel every day into this country? We don't know who they are, we don't know what their background is, but they don't share our values, they don't respect women, and they do not respect children. Yes! Yes!
She's got a point.
I saw that lady's speech in full.
Yeah.
It was on social media yesterday. She is incredibly reasoned. She's very calm. She's very much in control of what she's saying. And she delivered to an audience who entirely bought into everything that she was saying.
Yeah.
She was a voice of reason.
Yeah.
She is a voice who some lunatics in this Labour government would doubtlessly brandish as being some kind of far-right thug, when she is in fact just a very reasonable woman expressing her concerns about her local community, which is being tarnished. And that is what led in recent days to so many people turning out onto the streets to protest about the Bell Hotel in Epping, which is chock-a-block full of people that we don't know where they've come from, we don't know their backgrounds, we don't know what their intentions are, and one of their number has been charged, so I won't say very much more about that case, but has been charged in relation to an unpleasant assault on a child, a female
Well, it's
child,
one
a
of
girl.
3, allegedly.
A girl, yes. So people are rightfully irritated.
I read in the Mail today, and we can't talk about it too much, but I assume if it's been in another newspaper, I suppose we can say something on what's already in the public domain. But quite what this person is supposed to have said to these girls, following schoolgirls down the road, and it makes your stomach turn. And but the point is this, it's interesting reading some of the editorials, how far that Overton window has shifted, because a lot of people out there in the commentary out on the right wing are saying, well, what do you expect? Of course people are upset when it comes to women and girls, little girls being harassed by young men who have come from countries where you can snatch up a child bride as long as she's had her first bleed or whatever, who think that women should be dressed up like ghosts, shouldn't even be able to show an ankle, should have a male escort. When they come to the UK and they get bombarded, first of all, on their free smartphones in their hotels with their good Wi-Fi, stable Wi-Fi connection, when they get bombarded with the likes of Bonnie Blue and Lily Phillips and all this fetishised idea of Western girls, then they see the schoolgirls coming out who are all told by society they've got to look like a Kardashian. It sounds like a dreadful thing to say, but, well, actually, this is the headline that I was talking about in the Daily. It's not a dreadful thing to say, but what did they think would happen?
Yeah.
This is what I've said for so long. What did people in positions of power think would happen if a load of young men who are going to be highly sexed because they've been living in a tent in France suddenly get a hotel, who are from countries where they have very misogynistic attitudes, where women are dressed up like they're, I don't know, some sort of Pentium processor advert.
Well, they're hidden. They're not dressed up. They're
hidden.
They're hidden from view.
And that, to not do so is an act of shame, where you can marry Lord knows who for, 7 cows at whatever age she is. Then you bring them here, where teenage girls are wont to drink, cider on a park bench, leave the school gate and put their lippy on and roll up their school skirts. We all did that at the age of 14 because we didn't know any better. We're not wise to the world. And then those two cultures collide. What do they think is going to happen, for crying out loud?
And should those young women so choose, they may be scantily clad, beautifully turned out, and of course they are seen, I think, by so many of these people from entirely different cultures, as you've so expertly described. They are alien to these men. It, of course, is not going to end well. But what's happened in Epping is merely a reflection of what is happening the length and breadth of the country. Hundreds of these men are being parachuted into these hotels.
I wish it was only hundreds. It's thousands.
Yeah, but I mean into a hotel.
Into one hotel, yeah.
We'll have hundreds of men in that hotel, and this is replicated throughout the country. There is so much disquiet about this. There is anger, understandable anger. Imagine working all your life, okay, to be able to afford your nice home in a nice part of Essex like Epping or anywhere else in the country.
So you can send your daughter to a nice school, not in inner city London, and then you find out she's being trailed from the school gates by some dirty creep.
Now, wouldn't you be livid?
Yeah.
I've got 3 sons. If I had a daughter, I can only hazard a guess at how enraged I would be, and you can guarantee that I would be on the streets. I would want something done. And we have a governments, including the past lamentable Tories, who have repeatedly, for a very long time, done nothing about this. Absolutely nothing.
Worse than that, they have demonised and gaslit people who even had a glimmer of concern. And this is the other thing, this sort of demand to have empirical evidence. I'm glad we're finally getting crime statistics by nationality. I am glad we're now being able to say there is a case in point here. I had someone contact me about whistleblowing from a particular police force in the country, and I won't say which, but they have discovered that over 70% of the perpetrators of sex attacks in that police force's records are from foreign men. Over 70%. Now, I remember saying this. You and I went viral, didn't we? When I brought it up, back in the days when we were downstairs on talk, and I had my show with Kev, and I said, there's a problem here with men who discernibly are not from this country and the way they treat women in this country. And it exploded all over the internet because at the time, I think I might have been the first to actually come out and say it because it was the thing you weren't allowed to say. But it was patently obvious. And I don't know why, as women, we need to now point out statistics, point to statistics and say, look, we need these things published by nationality so the government will listen. Of course, if you bring men from a medieval misogynistic culture and stick them in hyper-sexualised 21st century Britain, they're gonna go tonto. Yes. Of course they are. What do you think happens? They magically cross the channel and get chemically castrated en route by the sea air.
Or
of course that doesn't happen.
Or enlightened into first world thinking, respect for women, and everything that goes along with it. No.
If you want to get even angrier, there's a very good article in today's Mail. Of course, we advocate more for The Sun because this is the best newspaper on earth. But in today's Mail, there's been a guy who's been down there at the protest following this for a very long time, spoken to lots of residents who have all said that, we've been trying to get this thing shut down for years. We were told it was going to be shut down in April and then they bust even more people in. This has been simmering for a very, very long time. And they've been talking about how these migrants just sort of swan out of their hotels, sit on park benches, smoking and drinking. Because what else are they going to do? They get their pocket money, they get their full board accommodation, they get their smartphones, their yoga lessons, their PlayStations, but they're not working. So what are they going to do? What a lot of people who, young men at a loose end are going to do, drink because they're probably not allowed to in their own countries, smoke because that's the only sort of activity they seem to do well in the Middle East, and leer at women. And the description here, the vista that is painted in this article, talks about discarded beer bottles and cigarette packets all on the grounds outside the hotel, pointing to the idea that these men are sort of not sitting there doing cross-stitch and taking open university degrees holed up in their bedrooms. And then get this, and in at least one bedroom window of this hotel, there are 3 bottles of Moet champagne in view. What on earth? Oh, poor little refugees. Oh, and he can't afford him. I mean, come on.
And it feeds into a lot of other disquiet surrounding this story. Of course, unfortunately, it created some violence and there was damage to some police vehicles and some police officers were injured. Thankfully, none seriously. And I would say, please, express your anger. Yeah. But you know what? Smashing up police vehicles or smashing up police officers is not a smart thing to do. In fact, it's idiotic. No. And I urge you not to do it. And there's a number of reasons why. Who arrested that man, gathered the evidence, sent that to the CPS, and as a result, that man is charged and in court? The police. Yeah. Who will arrest people that offend, regrettably, against children and women and pray in parks and all of that from these hotels? The police. You're going to want them. You're going to need them, OK? Because they are the ones with the warrant cards.
Very decent men and women.
And the powers of arrest, OK? I know organisationally they are dreadfully led by the woke and the liberal and the absolute lamentable police leadership these days, and it feeds into yet another aspect of this story which may be raising tempers. It would appear, I haven't had it confirmed, but it would appear that yesterday some police vans were filled with counter-protesters, the Antifa mob, and they were ferried possibly awaiting confirmation from the local railway station to the protest in police vans. Now, if that has happened, that is utterly unforgivable, completely unforgivable, and would be in a clear breach of a High Court ruling that was handed down this week with regards to police impartiality. There was a brilliant ruling which perhaps we can discuss.
No, exactly. We've got to take a break now, otherwise Dean's going to blow a gasket. Plus, if we don't have advert breaks, we don't get paid, do we, basically? You know, we're sponsored by these people, so enjoy them trying to flog their wares, and we'll see you on the other side.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back now. What were we just talking about before the break? Because I think we got to chew over this subject. The idea that the police in Essex might have helped ferry the counter-protesters from the station right into the heart of the protest. And I want to understand what's gone on here, because I don't want to put on a big, flashing tinfoil hat, but I'm gonna. Because I remember the Southport protests as they started. Similar scenes, men and women disgusted by that atrocity, and rightly so, went out to protest and said, we've had enough. And it's 2-3 days later that first of all you get the Socialist Worker Party lot with their ready-made placards. There they all turn up somehow. Then you get the football hooligans, and then it becomes a big conflagration, which can then be shut down by force. When it's a quiet protest with a woman like that saying we've got to look after our girls, you know, we're protesting peacefully, we're not racist, you can't do anything about it, and it starts to simmer and it starts to gather media attention. Then there's the risk, of course, that other people say, right, we're going to protest as well in Coventry, in Carlisle, in Cardiff, or wherever. And yet the easiest way to deal with stopping the public have any sort of outcry is to turn the heat up underneath, call everyone a far-right thug, and then drag people away in the back of a police van. And so I wonder if it is the case, if there is evidence that the police drove these counter-protesters, which are often hard left nut jobs, into the heart of these protests. My question is, why?
If they did, it is absolutely scandalous. I would go as far as to say it's a criminal offence. It's misconduct in public office because it is so reckless. And let's look at how contradictory that kind of police tactic would be to what's happened in the past. Do you remember not so long ago when there was a pro-Palestine march, I think it was, and about 200 white patriot blokes turned up on Westminster Bridge wanting to have a counter demonstration, and they were kettled, many of them handcuffed. They were surrounded by hundreds of police officers and held there for some considerable time. In other words, prevented from getting too close to the demonstration that they had a counter viewpoint from. So if Essex Police have bussed people in to deliberately create an opposition to what these people were protesting about, That is utterly scandalous and unforgivable. I'm going to wait and see if we get real kind of confirming evidence about this. But if it is, this truly is a scandal that is going to grow and grow and grow.
Now, you've been an undercover copper infiltrating the baddies. Has it ever been in the past, I think I already know the answer, has it ever been in the past a tactic of our security services to have professional protesters put into the middle of things in order to maybe turn up the volume or create a circumstance where there can be a different reaction?
My undercover work was strictly against serious and organised crime. Wasn't political. That was the sort of work of Special Branch, and of course we know there's still a long-running public inquiry going into the workings of Special Branch and some of their lamentable and unforgivable undercover tactics. So in essence, I can't answer that question. But if we just look at the potential ramifications of this, if the police have in any way, shape or form facilitated the deliberate creation of a situation that is tense, that is conflict, that is not actually allowing peaceful protest. No. That is creating tension and potential harm. And they're two very clear and different things. The police will always say, we protect protest, we protect the right to protest. But that's one thing. However, bussing people in to create tension is something completely different.
Yeah, and we'll have to see how that one plays out. We don't know, we don't have the evidence, but let us see what transpires. We've got to go to another break because I ran so long in the first section that we're just having to chuck them all in the last half hour. But don't go anywhere because you've got more Blexley and Phillips coming up after this.
But if we are able to expand that scheme so that we can send everyone who comes over back, then it won't be worth their trying to come across. There will be no return.
No, but it's not. But that's not the deal. The deal is not let's send them all back and we don't get anything in return. The deal is if we send 50 back, we get 50 coming the other way.
Yes, the deal is a pilot scheme.
How is that? Well, no, it's a pilot scheme. Two, you've said if quite a few times. Three, it's going to cost us a lot more money.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, I've got to put this to you, Peter, because Danny Dyer, national treasure as he is, has told The Telegraph that he thinks working class people should run the country. What do you make of it?
I absolutely love Danny Dyer, and I have to explain why, if I may. Some years ago, there was a series being made called Danny Dyer's Deadliest Men, And there was a lot of hard nuts that he spent time with and interviewed and all that kind of stuff. And bizarrely, this marshmallow here got selected to be one of Danny Dyer's deadliest men.
What makes you so deadly?
So, well, you know, my undercover work and all that, pretending to be an assassin. And, you know, I did used to be able to shift some furniture in my earlier years, you know, rest assured. Anyway, so I spent quite a few days with Danny filming this. And this is before his EastEnders fame. But he was astonishingly popular. He would stop the traffic popular. Quite literally. Yeah. We'd be on a pavement doing an interview and people would stop in and toot in. They want an autograph, they want to shake his hand. Incredibly popular, and he was absolutely wonderful. At one point, we filmed a role play where I pretended to be the drug dealer and Danny Dyer pretended to be the undercover cop. Okay, so we got into role and all of that. Of course, Danny is, as he will admit, you know, for all his Bethnal Green accent and his demeanour and this, that and the other, he is at the end of the day just an actor, okay? So he is in no way, and he would admit it, he is not a hard nut, Danny. He's an actor, but he's lovely and he's genuine, and he was such a joy to work with. Anyway, we did this role play. So I'm the drug dealer. He's playing the role of the undercover cop, and we're having a quick chit chat, and I did exactly what had happened to me when I worked undercover. I said, right, undress. Right, and he looks at me.
That's starting like sound some sort of Grinder video.
Stick with it just for a minute, right? Okay. And he looks at me. I said, get your clothes off. Right? And he was really quite taken aback by it. Because, of course, in real life, that's happened when criminals want you to strip off to see whether you've got a wire on or not. Right? And he did. And completely, I hasten to add. Anyway, and he was real good fun. And we had a great time working together. Absolutely adore the fella. And I think it might be quite interesting to see more people from traditional working class backgrounds in positions of authority. I think people like the authentic Greg Wallace do people with regional accents and working class backgrounds a huge amount of damage when they get a little bit of stardust sprinkled on them, and then they behave utterly appallingly. That does damage. But there are a lot of people that I know, working class people, tradespeople, generally speaking, work really hard, raise wonderful families, contribute to society, and have so much experience, input, insight, knowledge that would be so helpful to people who come from naive, narrow backgrounds and run the country.
This is the thing, because, you know, always my boyfriend tells me off for moaning about the middle classes, because he's like, you're middle class, you've got to come up with a better word for that. And I'm like, OK, the bourgeoisie, because they normally are the people who live in the cities. But they've lived such a sheltered upbringing. You know, their view of the world, like you said, is so narrow. That shelter, that protective bubble that they've been brought up in has prevented them actually being able to see the real world. They've never set foot in the real world. They've never pulled pints in a bar in a rough pub. They've never sort of, you know, worked in nightclubs like I have, where the doormen are all sort of secretly gangsters on the side. They don't know how that is. You know, they've never worked at supermarket checkouts and actually seen what those wages look like and what those hours are like and why it's important, if you go to a till, to look down from your phone and say hello to the person sitting there doing their job and make them feel like a human. They have no idea. They grow up in neighbourhoods where if they've got foreign neighbours, they're doctors and lawyers and university professors, not the type who are going to try and snatch your 14-year-old daughter off the street.
And they go to Oxbridge, do PPE, what is it, politics, philosophy and economics. You know, some of them become members of the Bullingdon Club. I'm talking about your Camerons, your Osbornes, your Johnsons, all those kind of privileged people. And Starmer, to an extent, you know, with his perpetual nonsense about son of a toolmaker and all that kind of game. You know, he has not really come from the tough side of the street. He's not really got a huge amount of experience of the struggles that so many, including my single mum, went through. No, exactly. And I think, look, there needs to be better social mobility. It's dead in this country, dead in the water. And, of course, those low-grade private schools have been shut down by Sir Keir Starmer. Well done, that's going to help. Listen, we've got to go to ad break now. Tech Op's fallen asleep, but I know that he's got to press the button. We'll see you on the other side.
Is it transphobic to say only women have a cervix?
Well, it is something that shouldn't be said. It is not right. A woman is an adult female, and the court has made that absolutely clear. I actually welcome the judgment because I think it gives real clarity. It allows those that have got to draw up guidance to be really clear about what that guidance should say. If you want to fight for Remain, vote Labour. Now, there are some who say we don't need Brexit to work. We need to reverse it. I couldn't disagree more. Day after day, there are new allegations of sleaze, of favours, of privileged access. And it's all very well the Prime Minister saying, well, say now, well, I'm paying for it.
You've decided to repay £6,000 worth of gifts.
Lord Ali is facing an investigation. I wonder how concerned you are that your biggest donor was not fully transparent.
Are you saying you made a mistake?
It was right for me to make those repayments. Thank you. Of course, I wouldn't want Donald Trump round for dinner, but don't underestimate the danger to the world if Trump is re-elected this time around. I'm anti-Trump. I would like to send my warmest congratulations to President Trump on his inauguration as the 47th President of the United States.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, 1 hour done. I feel like I deserve a badge or something, having barely slept last night, but we're going to get through it, aren't we, together, because you are here to help me. The number, the charitable institution that you can contact to help Alex get through the next 3 hours by adding your voice to the conversation. The details are on your screen right now. 03444991000 is the number to dial to give me some moral support via voice. You can also leave me a voice note if you'd rather do that and not speak to me live, using the same number and using it on WhatsApp, 03444991000, or indeed send me a WhatsApp message, 8722, if you'd rather just send me a text message if you do that right talk before your text. Let's do a couple of messages now before Blex and I go through the front pages. Morning, Alex and Peter. Big love to you both. I'm getting sick and tired of this Labour government leaking money left, right and centre to parasites that illegally come via boats, and we can't even heat a pensioner's home in winter. There is no black hole of money. It's just being dishonestly distributed among working-age men from countries who hate us. What is going on in this country? I mean, it's not just about the amount we're forking out on blimmin' illegal immigrants. It's also ridiculous things like the Motability scheme, giving people free cars when they've got constipation. I mean, every day you just learn how mad this country is.
It is all about the money. So much of it is about the money. Of course, it's about undocumented men in this country by the thousands upon thousands. But it's very much about the money because this country is skint. I think it's entirely possible, from what far more learned people tell me, that the government might have to go to the Bank of England for a bailout. They might even, by the end of the year, have to go to the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, for a bailout. Things are looking that
If that
dire.
happens, it could topple the government. Bring it on, I say.
Well, because we're just shelling out all this money for absolutely no return. What was the social contract? The social contract used to be, as perceived, if not actually written into some kind of constitution, go to school, pay attention. All right, I didn't do too well on that front. Right? Get a job, pay your taxes, abide by the law, and then in return there'll be schools, hospitals, a police service and a pension. You know, and that's okay, it's very narrow. But that's kind of like the social contract. It's what I was born into.
It's like an insurance policy,
Yeah,
isn't it?
what I was raised into believing and what I've followed all my life. And now we've got these people who are adults coming into the country. Now we've got, and the bigger story, apart from the boats and the hotels, the real immigration story is the hundreds of thousands of people that have brought in their dependents, for example, right? Their gran from Ghana, their nanny from Nigeria, their disabled kid from elsewhere, all of whom will contribute nothing to the system, and yet they use all the facilities. They get all the benefits, and that far outstrips any contribution they will ever pay into the system.
Totally. No, we all know it. We all run out of got to the end of our tether.
So what are we going to do? What are we going to do?
I don't know.
It's all well and good us sitting here talking about it and hopefully chiming with the audience, but what are we going to do? We have to do something. We cannot allow this country to go down the pan like it is. We cannot allow...
This is it. What are we left with? It's so difficult. I mean, I'm going to be like in big trouble if I start saying, ladies and gentlemen, take to the streets. I can't do it. But, you know, you have to say, I did a big rant yesterday going, you've taken away the only mechanism the public have, which is democracy, because they have voted. They've said time and again what they want, and you've demonised them. You've gaslit them. When Nigel Farage put that poster up in 2016 during the EU referendum, the snake of migrant men traipsing across Europe. Do you remember the way the legacy media acted? You disgusting, are you going to renounce this poster? Even I was asked at the time, I'd sort of like gone off to do other things. And I sometimes called up for interviews, like, do you stand by this poster that Nigel put out? And they tried to shame you into saying, well, I wasn't there for that poster. I wasn't part of that decision making. But he was right, he just showed a factual picture of all the men heading this way from cultures completely at the other end of the spectrum when it comes to us on morality. And he just said, look, this is coming across Europe. It is coming to you. He was right.
Yeah. But it's not only the boats, as I say. Please forgive me for reiterating. It is the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people who have been allowed, have abused the system, who may have got a visa at some point, student visa, working visa, and all of that, and have utterly abused it to bring in people, relatives again, who are not going to contribute to the system. All right? I'll give the Tories some credit there. They stopped the student-dependent element.
Yeah, they invented it. Stopped it.
But there are so many people here that shouldn't be. We need people that are not, that do not have the right to be in this country, that are abusing the hospitality, that are a drain on its resources, to not be here anymore.
Honestly, I don't know, we're just going to hell in a handcart. Talking about people who should go to hell, and definitely will, front page of The Sun. What do you make of this? So monster Ian Huntley sparked fury wearing a shirt inside prison very similar to the shirt the little girls were wearing when he murdered them. Apparently not allowed to wear football shirts in prison because it can cause disruption and unrest, but somehow he gets some sort of magic tokens to go shopping down Sports Direct or whatnot, and deliberately picks a shirt with a big number 10 on it, red, to look like that shirt, wears it, walking around the wings of his prison, much to the disgust of other prisoners, and he just laughs at them. I mean...
Jessica and Holly, rest your souls, you beautiful young things, whose lives were taken from them by this utter monster. Do you know what? There's a part of me, actually, that is not enraged about this story whatsoever, because, surprise to some, I do not believe in capital punishment. I don't think that we should, although there are people like Levi Belfield and Axel Rudabakana that push me very, very close to changing my view. However, a lifelong detention, okay, for somebody like Huntley, who was relatively young when he was nicked and convicted, is a life essentially of misery, okay? His life is so pathetic. It is so narrow and it is so unpleasant. Number one, because he's incarcerated forever. Number 2, because he doesn't enjoy the freedoms that we have. Number 3, because of the company he has to keep.
Yeah.
Right? You imagine the people that he's locked up with.
Yeah. They don't take much to a child killers, do they?
The absolute verminous detritus of the world is who he serves with, and rightfully so. He's got a miserable, sad, pathetic life. He wants to get out of his whole life term, and if you look inside the Sun today, you see a picture from 2006 when this verminous piece of garbage tried to take his own life, right? Like Harold Shipman did, like Fred West did, because they can't stand the prospects of decade upon decade upon decade of incarceration. Ian Huntley, I don't give a toss about him. Let him rot.
Apparently, though, he's pals with a warlord and has perks, including an Xbox. So, all right for some, innit? Right, let's blaze on with some more front pages, shall we? Oh, here we go. Mirror is leading on Harry's last hope. Prince must make peace now. There'll be no back under King Wills. I'm sure that's the case, actually. I've always said if he doesn't sort things out of his dad when William comes in, William ain't going to tolerate it, is he? He's going to strip the titles, wash his hands of them both.
Forgive me being intrusive. Do you have any siblings?
Yeah, I've got an older brother and an older stepsister.
OK. Well, I've got a sister, and there's been bumps in the road in our relationship over the years, but essentially I love her and we get on very well. I've got 3 sons, of course, and as brothers they all get on really well. It would break my heart to the point that it would never mend if I had a fallout with any of my sons. Likewise, if my sons had a fallout amongst themselves. Come on, fellas, you're all grown-ups here, right? I know you live a completely different life to what we do, but essentially, blood is blood, brothers are brothers, and a dad is a dad.
Yeah.
Sort it out. Get on, just grow up. You can come round my house if you want, and I'll bang your heads together and get it all sorted out. It'd be very humble, of course, but there'll be plenty of cold beer, some wine, and.
What about if you found that your son or your brother had married a woman who made your family's life a living hell?
Can still sort it out. It can all be sorted out with a bit of frigging banging of heads together. I'm not condoning violence. Unfortunately,
metaphorical
we haven't got any lunatics listening to this station, fortunately.
Yeah, thankfully.
So no, come on, sort it out. I'm offering you my kitchen as a place where the 3 of you can come and we'll sort it out, OK? And if my boys are there, there'll be enough of us to stop any punch-ups if you're thinking of raising your hands, boys, all right?
Well, watch out, you might break your necklace and hit the dog bowl, or whatever the revelation was in Harry's
Not
book.
in my house with my 3 sons there, maintaining law and order.
You break my necklace!
We will be maintaining decorum. They can all sit down and behave themselves and get over it.
Now, front page of Telegraph. We've already done Afghan migrant brings 22 relatives. I mean, it's utterly ridiculous. But I've spotted a little something else on the front of the Telegraph. If you squint really hard right now down the bottom near the barcode, English cider is giving wine a run for its money. This is basically saying that the posh stuff. The cider that's in sort of the craft cider, you know, it's the ones made by guys with big beards and man buns.
Yeah. Scruddock's Old Diligible, that sort of stuff.
But it's but you know, I take you to my favourite little gaff.
Yes.
And they have the posh ciders there.
We do, but I have to drink very modestly because it's a long way from the toilet. And sometimes at my age, the need is urgent.
That is true.
Sorry to lower the tone on a Saturday morning, everybody.
But here we go. Why the finest British cider is overturning the posh drinks apple cart. And in this, written by Gabe Cook, who is a cider expert and author of Ciderology. That's a book I don't have that I need. If you're listening, Gabe, come on. I love the fact he puts in this little cultural fact. Cider in bottles with natural sparkle has existed in the UK since the 17th century, since the 1600s, therefore, when it was once the drink of aristocracy and royalty, before it became the farm labourer's drink. But I've always said this, that apparently, rumour has it in cider world, that because there's so much yeast naturally occurring on the outside of an apple, when you leave it to ferment in a bottle, that yeast just carries on going and carries on fermenting, which makes it fizzy. And when the French came over and saw what we were up to with cider, they went, that's a good idea. Put it in wine and invented champagne. All started here. At least that's what we like to believe. But I've been banging on about cider forever. And do you know what? I must admit, I do like a fine cider. I much prefer something that's been sort of like, you know, squeezed in some sort of archaic machine run by steam, with a rat in the bottom of a barrel. Proper rough cider, as it's actually called, is more my cup of tea than the fancy stuff. But I like to see fancy ciders doing well because it's so blimmin' British. But I do wonder now, when you start seeing it in the board sheets at the weekend, you're like, oh, great. All the bourgeoisie are going to jump on it now. They're going to ruin cider for the rest of us. It's like the IPA thing with all the labels of robots on. It's so tedious.
Yeah.
Why do they always have, like, teddy bears with stitched on eyes and stuff like that, and robots? Why can't
But
they
let's focus on, just for a moment, and pay homage to that first person who many centuries ago departed this mortal coil. But how clever was the first person who ever thought you could make an alcoholic drink out of apples?
I don't think they came up with it. I think they just left the apple juice and it became alcohol, which is kind of cider's not that sophisticated.
But somebody must have gone, oh, I'll try that then. You know, maybe there was some liquid at the bottom of a barrel of rotten apples, and they thought, I'm going to have a drink of that and see if it's any good. That was a smart, adventurous person.
It was.
And look what it's now become.
Yeah, there you go.
They're in the Telegraph, centuries later.
Centuries later. Let's do it. Front page of the Independent. UK fuel duty sets to be frozen again in cost of living boost. That hasn't been placed on the front page by number 10, has it? No, not at all. Of course not. I mean, great, they're freezing fuel duty. I suppose that's some small win we can semi-celebrate. Although I was reading a brilliant article today about wind turbines and all about how people with these sort of massive private estates are paid the amount of money. It's about 170,000 per wind turbine they have in their private estate.
What 170,000 about what? To build or
just
to rent?
To have it on your land. If you're a private landowner,
really?
You get paid per year. Yeah, and you also get paid for when it's not generating electricity. And so, I mean, we knew this anyway, because David Cameron's father-in-law was coining it from wind farms. But 40% of our energy bills is paying for this stuff, while the big landowners, who've already got millions in the bank, are making millions of pounds extra a year. It's like reverse Robin Hood. It's thieving from the poor and freezing granny to put more money in the pockets of the rich. All this green energy revolution, all the jobs it's going to create. Now it's a giant charity check to Beijing. And then, you know, the landed gentry getting richer. The woke landed gentry. Of course, all those posh tards love a good windmill. Make money from it, don't they?
Do you think Ed Miliband's a bit unwell?
You seen him lately?
I have.
I mean, if you think my congestion sounds bad this morning, that man's had worse than me for many years now.
He doesn't look a robust picture of health, does he?
He doesn't. He looks... I sent a picture of him the other day to my other half. I'm not going to say what I said in that message on air. But it was definitely mocking the state of that man. Front page of the Times. Russia spies unmasked as UK takes on the Kremlin. I mean, again and again, we learn that we're just infiltrated, whether it's by Iran, whether it's by Russia, whether it's by China. They're all here. 3 units of Russia's feared military intelligence agency, the GRU, were sanctioned on Friday, along with 18 of their officers. The Foreign Office said they were being exposed for a sustained campaign of malicious cyber activity, covert bombings and cyber attacks aimed at undermining the West and derailing Ukraine's war efforts. I mean, Russia, bad eggs. Thankfully, Trump suddenly realised that, at least.
Yeah, but we've always had nation-states that are enemies, haven't we? Russia's been an enemy of ours all my life. It comes as no huge surprise. Oh, what? They're spying on us. Well, guess what? They've been doing it for decades and decades and decades.
I think the one thing that isn't spoken about enough is there's the whole clamour, wasn't there, of, Trump 1.0. Russia did it. They interfered in the elections. Cambridge Analytica, Russia. Brexit. Oh, Russia chose the Brexit result. It was Russia. No, it wasn't. What Russia does infiltrate, however, and this is a documented fact, are all the leftist movements. They were the ones who got themselves into the environmental cause to add nuclear energy onto the bad list, when that would have been the solution. Instead of having to buy gas from Russia or windmills from China, nuclear would have helped us out a long time ago, but we allowed environmental activists to change our minds and all this. Guess who infiltrated them? Russia. I'm pretty sure when you look at all these leftists turning up with their short fringes and their placards, which seem to be printed en masse overnight in undisclosed
Socialist
locations.
Worker. They've all got, look how many hundreds of them.
I want to know, follow the money with them. Where are they getting their money from?
Yeah, exactly.
I bet there's some fund. I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I think they're
held to account, that
worthy of investigation to establish their funding.
Yeah.
Can I have a quick word about the Times front page, please?
Yeah.
If you look at the Times front page, there is a headline that says, "Why I went naked on holiday." Why I went naked on holiday at 75. Okay, let me just, for clarification here, I'm 65, and so it's definitely not me. That might be an article in their magazine today that I swerve, just in case any of the photographs are a bit indiscreet.
I'm not even going to... I was going to actually try and find that that article, but I don't want to read it. She's exactly... I don't know who she is, but she's exactly the sort of, I'm guessing, exactly the sort of woman who probably shops at Waitrose and likes Ed Davey.
Yeah, and probably has been on a Just Stop Oil march or three.
I probably loves all that, yeah.
Yeah.
PM's doom loop means yet more tax rises, says the Daily Express.
Yeah, well...
There you are.
We
know. We know.
What people tell me, the books are not being balanced. Money's got to come from somewhere.
Yeah. They've been able to not been able to cut a single budget. You know, when they came to wanting to cut all the welfare we hand out, no, that was stopped.
Yeah.
You know, you can't stop all this money going to migrants. Now we're going to be, like I said, more taxpayers' money wasted on paying the immigration lawyers, who then mean even more people come to the country. We are going to hell in a handcart.
Because guess why they couldn't get any of their cuts through? Because of the lunatic left within their party who have thwarted this government at every turn. Starmer, he suspends another 4 of them? Didn't he this week?
Yeah, he did.
Because they're just lunatics.
They are.
They're actually, they come up with nothing of benefit to this great nation. They are just completely off their rockers. And consequently, the government can't balance the books. There's not enough money. So, who are they going to go for? The easy targets. Those of us who pay our taxes. Those of us who work hard and are straight runners. Oh, yes, they can find us, they can hit us.
Talking about the lunatic left, some of them are actually in the government, aren't they? And that brings me nicely onto the Guardian's front page, which is Angela Rayner has done a big interview basically saying that Labour must step up and make the case for power. I don't think so. I mean, I don't think... Do you think there's anyone out there, any normal people who are like, well, let's give them another try, Labour can salvage it?
No,
I love a bit of left-wingism.
We all know this government were not... OK, so they were swept to power with a huge majority. Yes, they were, but not because millions of people ideologically bought in to their manifesto. That general election was a protest vote. The entire general election, I know that by-elections are normally protest votes, that entire general
people
election
didn't vote for Labour, they just didn't vote Conservative. They got fewer votes in the last election than they had under Jeremy Corbyn, who lost the election.
But Starmer has such a lack of self-awareness, he doesn't realise this. He thinks he's swept to power, he thought he's Blair.
But I think back to that election campaign, and it was disgusting how little proper reporting was done on it. You just had all the media calling it, going, it's going to be a major Labour landslide, it's going to be a major Labour landslide, before anybody even got to the polls, which in my mind is prejudicing the vote when you basically paint it as a foregone conclusion, because it has the effect of people going, well, I won't bother voting then if Labour's going to definitely win.
And
and they never asked them a single question about their policy. Never asked Ed Davey a single question about his policy, because he was always farting about on the water somewhere. It's a disgust. It wasn't democracy. Journalism failed during that last election.
Charmless, characterless, pointless Starmer had his Ming Vase policy, didn't he? Don't say anything so you can't.
Don't have a policy, don't say a word. Just talk about going to Taylor Swift, which you found out bought the tickets by Lord Ali or whoever.
Yeah, exactly. And then he gets, and of course it hasn't taken very long for his popularity, if he ever had it, for the figures to go into hugely negative numbers, and people realise that he's unfit for office, he's incapable of holding together a coherent government in Parliament and a coherent Labour Party, and look at the mess him and his cohort have got us all into. You know,
4 more years. years.
Oh,
We ain't going to have a bloody country to come back to, are we, in 4 years' time? It's pretty doomful. Right, listen, guys, we're going to take another advert break, but don't go anywhere, because we just want to squeeze in a call before we then go to another advert break, because I keep missing my little slots. 0344499 1000 is the number to dial if you want to get in touch. If you want to send me a WhatsApp, you can use that number as well, or leave me a voice note on that number. 87222 is the number if you'd like to send me a text message. Right, talk before you text. I'm back after this.
I know that from friends in the BBC, they've been asking for this for not just since October 7th, but before. There was a big scandal in 2021 when some Jewish kids were attacked in Oxford Street in London, and the BBC were the only people to make up this claim that they've been making anti-Arab slurs. Ofcom reported against the BBC, and I know that Jewish people have been asking for anti-Semitism training at the BBC as a result of this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
All right, should we hit up those phone lines then, Blex?
Oh, yes, please.
Yeah, this is Steve. Good morning to you, Steve.
Good morning, Alex. Good morning, Peter. How are you?
Yeah, all right. Bit
Yeah,
tired, but
good.
we're limping on through.
All good.
The finish line is close to you. I've still got...
I'm crashing on through. I'm not limping.
I'm limping.
Yeah.
I've got my sort of metaphorical Zimmer frame. Anyway, what's on your mind, Steve, my darling?
My call's about these migrants and the crimes they commit. Now, this has been going on for decades, Alex and Peter, right? We import people from cultures that are radically different from ours. Mm-hmm. And instead of insisting that they have a cultural test that they have to pass, what we do is we pass laws after the event. So we've now got a law against FGM because people from sub-Saharan Africa who do it over there started coming over here and doing it over here. But instead of saying to them up front, look, you can't do that, we now have a law against honour killing because people in India have honour killing. But we wait until they come in and start doing it and then go, oh, let's have a law, that'll stop it. And then we had a law against forced marriages because girls were being sent to other countries underage to get married. Oh, we'll bring a law in. Yeah. Why don't we just have a system? These guys are all sat in hotels with nothing to do. Surely we can actually teach them something while they're in the hotels. They're all together. Say, here's England. This is what you can do. This is what you certainly can't do. Yeah. And then if they do something, we can say, you know what, you were told you shouldn't do it, bugger off. But what we do is wait until they've done it and they go, well, I'm a camel herder, I didn't know you couldn't do that. Really?
Well, that's what the judges, that's what the lawyers you represent, and the judges go, oh, poor thing, he was from a society where he thought that rape was normal, let's let him off. You make a very good point, though. We have not just imported, wrong-uns and certain cultural values that are not our own, that are frictious with our own. We've actually imported certain crimes which are not indigenous to this country.
Steve raises absolutely brilliant points and two vile crimes. FGM, female genital mutilation, which is done to children. Yeah. They are butchered, literally butchered. A very, very unwelcome habit, custom that has been brought into this country. And actually, there have been prosecutions for it, but nowhere on the scale that needs to be done. So often, this is done by filthy, vile, unqualified people in the most dreadful of circumstances. It can lead to infection, fatalities. It's an abhorrent thing. An honour killing, goodness me, how many of those have we had in this country?
I'll tell you what's interesting. So I used to live and work in Kenya for the president, and massive campaigns in Kenya to try and stamp out FGM, a huge focus in African governments to actually get rid of this barbaric practice. And yet the problem we also have, by the way, is if you're somebody in, say, Cameroon, who thinks you're, who's from a tribe or society where they might still practice FGM, you can actually use that to claim asylum. Oh, I came over because I was at risk of having FGM. I mean, I'm very sympathetic, disgusting, barbaric practice, but just because it happens in one particular country, I don't think, like all these other things, like when people turn around and go, well, I'm gay, and that's frowned upon back at home, if that is a condition for coming and saying, therefore I should live in your country because my country isn't running itself properly, despite the fact that most governments get huge amounts of money from the West, by the way, to try and stamp out these horrible practices. I've
got another one for you, Steve. First cousin marriage.
I know, innit?
Yeah.
I mean, look at the consequences of that.
Yeah.
But very quickly, Alex, you raise a good point there, right? So I can claim I'm gay, and therefore I can't live in Arabia because they're gay, right?
You can't live in about 3/4 of the world. That's the problem.
What I'm saying is, if you come here with those cultural values and you believe in them, we should say, I'm sorry, you can't come here because you're from a country where they want to hurt gay people. And the reason people are fleeing your country is because of that, but yet you want to come here and bring those values here.
The idea that the Western world is personally responsible for the malpractice and bad governance of other countries, that if they can't run their own democracies, if they haven't managed to stamp out these evil ideas, that somehow we therefore have to pick up the slack, when we already send a huge amount of foreign aid in order, in theory, to do that, it doesn't make sense. And especially when it comes to, I'm from a country where you're not allowed to be gay. That is most of the world. We might think that in the modern 21st century, actually, you can be a homosexual anywhere, but actually it's pretty much, largely, Europe and the Anglosphere. A lot of them, maybe South America as well, but a lot of the rest of the world, most African countries, Caribbean countries, Muslim countries, most of the world make life very difficult for gay men and women. Does that mean that all of them in those countries should be able to come and live in the UK? Why is it look, I'm sympathetic, great, I'm sympathetic to a lot of people. It doesn't mean that we are personally responsible. Yes, you send money to these countries and say, if this might help build some wells or feed the poor, except that isn't what our money goes to do. Purportedly, it often is for these social justice programmes. But I just don't see why we have to keep trying to solve everyone else's problems. And when we can't do that, we just take people from those countries instead.
I am far more sympathetic towards a British person who has had the great misfortune to be born with a disability, for example.
Yeah.
I want them to get what they need to give them the most comfortable, fulfilling, rewarding life.
Yeah.
Maybe even one where they can contribute, of course, and many disabled people do when their employers get it right. That's where my sympathy is.
Yeah.
I'm afraid if you're black and you're born in Africa and you're gay, well, I'm afraid that's just very unfortunate for you. But first of all, I want to prioritise people that are British.
Yeah.
That's what I want to prioritise.
But also, you know, as someone who's lived and worked in Africa a lot, I'll tell you this for free. If an African leader during an election campaign said, part of my manifesto is to decriminalise homosexuality, do you reckon they're going to vote for him? No.
No, of course
not. In the way they have democracy, they get to vote for who they want. And believe you me, Africans are not about to be voting for pride marches. It is that simple. Steve, thank you ever so much for your phone call. And thanks to you, Peter.
Well, thank you for having me.
You've kept me very well entertained and informed.
You're very kind. It's been a pleasure.
I'm going to miss you.
Likewise.
All right. But hopefully you won't be leaving me. You're going to stick around, aren't you? Because we've still got a gazillion hours to go until 10 o'clock when I'm going to go home and have a delightful little nap. Coming up after the break, the launch of a big national campaign for digital freedoms as the talk of getting digital ID cards and the like is growing in volume. What do you make of it? Is it time we had this to actually sort out some of these problems retrospectively, like all the illegals in the country? Or is this just a way for the nanny state to intrude on us, to dictate what we do in our lives? Is it going to basically punish the decent people and do nothing about all the problems it's supposed to solve? We're going to be talking about that after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, my lovely things. Thank you for your kind messages and giving me support on this sleepy morning for me because, well, I didn't sleep at all last night, so I'm kind of running on adrenaline right now. But you are here to support me. Michael in Hockley says, morning, Alex. We're all yawning together this morning after a hot, sleepless night. But you're here to brighten us up. Thank you. No, thank you. You've brightened up my day. Right, let's talk now to Alan Miller, co-founder of the Together Declaration, because you are launching a campaign today, aren't you, Alan? All about no to digital ID and yes to a digital Bill of Rights. Tell us more.
Yes, good morning, Alex. Well, it's 4 years today since Boris Johnson said we had Freedom Day. And by the way, we've got digital ID vaccine passports. And many people fought against that, 360,000 people. We took signatories to Downing Street. We lost 45,000 care workers that now we know in the NHS has had a huge impact. But we actually stopped 100,000 NHS staff being lost for their jobs. All of this was being wrapped up with digital ID. Now, it seems that Tony Blair's response to any problem is let's get digital ID. We just got to remember that Winston Churchill in 1952 was the person who said, we don't want a national identity card. That's not being free. And yet we've seen time after time it being pushed forward. In its latest incarnation, we're being told maybe we should have a brick card because it would help protect our borders against illegal migration or help prevent crime or stop fraud or just going to the pub. It will make life easier. Yet for all these things, Alex, what we're seeing is a push to control people, to track them, to have surveillance. We know there's been debanking because of political views. We know that free speech has been limited. People have been imprisoned for social media posts, but they're not being imprisoned for attacking people on the streets. We know that we've got passports and driving licenses, but people are not being stopped at the borders because it's not digital ID that stops small boats coming in with people who throw away their passports. It's policing it properly without fear or favour across the nation. And we've got technocrats that think the great idea is to consistently survey us, to track us, to have bureaucrats as we've got now be able to go into our bank accounts and take money out without a warrant, who are unelected, or to say, well, we don't agree with what you're saying, what some people are saying, so we're going to limit and suffocate that speech or spy on you. So we're saying it together that we need to have ring fence our privacy and our liberty and our rights, a digital bill of rights to say we are not going to be forced into digital ID. Millions of people can't get on an app for banking and can't do internet banking. We must have cash. We must have the choice about how we conduct ourselves. And that we, you know, from the Reformation onwards, Alex, many people in Britain and around the world fought for freedom of conscience and privacy. And we can't have a surveillance state, a snooping state that's constantly monitoring us. So we are asking people to get involved with togetherdeclaration.org and to champion this digital bill of rights and say we won't just become data slaves.
I mean, this is the thing, isn't it? When policies are introduced, this always happens, whatever it is, it's introduced arguably as some sort of good idea or because it's needed at this point in time. And then it grows, it snowballs, it has various tentacles, it gets more competencies and powers and morphs into something it was never intended to be. And you can see, can't you, when you look at things like, oh, we need lifestyle medicine. I actually agree with lifestyle medicine instead of taking drugs. But, you know, everyone needs to lose weight to save the NHS. You can see how quickly, if you had digital ID, all of a sudden it's going to be monitoring your shopping. You've had too much cheese this month. Yeah. Or you've bought cigarettes and you shouldn't have done. You know, it's going to turn into very quickly, because this always happens inevitably, something like that sort of Communist Party of China social credit system.
Well, that's exactly right. If you look at things like fines for recycling incorrectly, or the debate around your carbon footprint, the idea that you've gone a little bit too far in the car around the country, or you've gone on just a bit too much of a holiday, or you've said some things on Alex's show that are a little bit not conforming to DEI and ESG objectives, that you've got an ability to perhaps switch things off. Remember, the CEO of the Bank of International Settlements said the great thing about central bank digital currency is we can track every single transaction. The idea of a programmable central bank currency that then we see that, you know, we say, well, let's have a lockdown, or perhaps you're saying things that are a bit unsavoury about what's happened in Southport, about children being murdered, or you're speculating about why that may be, and you can just quickly shut things down. We need to have a ring fence protections. Our liberties and our privacy and our freedoms are an essential part of what makes Britain what it is. And we've seen that under attack with two-tier policing, with two-tier justice, and with an elite who hate the public. They hate questions, whether it's about sovereignty and borders or Brexit, or about challenging lockdowns or impositions, or about ULEZ or low traffic neighbourhoods. They like to call people far right, beyond the pale, unacceptable, dangerous. The notion that we're going to have these technocrats with an ability to not just monitor what we do, but perhaps shut us down. Look at what's just happened with the data breach in Afghanistan. Look at what happened across Portugal when you had, due to net zero, as it happens, power cuts. The idea that everything's hinged around this, there's data and security risks. They can't even protect their own spies and our servicemen and women, right? So the idea that they're going to be able to protect all of us from those things, all of it is inherently difficult and problematic. We're not saying we actually love technology. There should be lots of mechanisms to be able to utilize it and harness it. We just must, in the same way that you would say, well, look, we want to have a telephone, we want to have the Royal Mail, but we need protections and warrants about who's snooping and who's not. in this tech landscape, we can't have forced digital ID. They're getting really smart, Alex. They're saying, look, if you don't like crime, if you don't like illegal migrants, it's an interesting way to package it. We need to be robust and vigilant. That is not going to be what happens. What will end up happening is we'll be monitored, we'll be surveyed.
Yeah.
We'll have the same problems there. So we're asking people to get involved, togetherdeclaration.org, and challenge it.
I'm with you all the way on that. You know, I've never been too fussed about digital ID, but all of a sudden I'm kind of like, well, we kind of need it, and also it's going to be a disaster because I don't trust the government. Nobody does. So you're onto something there, Alan. There you go. Together Declaration, that is Alan Miller, fighting the good fight for your freedoms. Right, going to take a little break now, but when I come back, we're joined by one of my favourites. I had her in the studio yesterday. Kinsey Schofield, host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered. We're going to be getting all the royal gossip and maybe other stuff going on the other side of the pond just after this.
Slowly, there was going to be greater alignment on certain things, not necessarily to our significant benefit, purely because of the financial cost. I mean, any amount of money that we're spending in order for British citizens to be able to use e-gates is not an amount of money worth spending. This whole, it is this strange Remainer middle-class fantasy where they go, oh, I have to add 20 minutes onto my entire trip because I have to queue at the at passport control, whereas everybody else gets to use the electronic gates. And for that, we're supposed to give them how much money?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, welcome back. Now, I'm sure you were glued to your screens, weren't you, as Meghan Markle moved things from one container to another container, tied it in a pretty bow, and thought that she was the next Einstein. Well, apparently you weren't, because her show failed to crack Netflix top 300. She's doing really well, isn't she, Kinsey? The sort of, what is it called? But she's got this founders thing, that's it, a podcast going like, you know, female founders. The only thing she's found is the fact that she's utterly useless and no one likes her.
I also think it's important to note that Prince Harry's Polo series landed at 3,000 and something. I mean, this is, where's the return on investment here for Netflix? I know this is potentially ugly to say, but when you look at why Netflix would continue to maintain a relationship with Meghan Markle specifically, because they say that with this next contract, they're going to focus on Meghan, not include Harry, and it's going to be a case-by-case basis. So perhaps they continue on with this program that we've seen was not successful eyeballs-wise, but Meghan could continue to pitch them other projects that she develops. When you think about why would you want to maintain this relationship with this person? The theories online are that Netflix wants to be the first in case things go south with Harry and Meghan.
Oh, Kins, the aliens have got to you. Wow, Kins has turned into a robot. Look at that. I blame the Russians. Or it's just the curse of Meghan. But don't you worry, because look who I've got in the studio to plug the little guy. She just happened to be here. I love that. When things go wrong in live radio, normally you have to just bluff it and fill yourself. But don't you worry, because Tom Clayton's here to give us a bit of sport. Let's see if we can get Kins back. But in the meantime, let's just do sport. Let's just sandwich it all up together.
Here's one I made earlier.
Yeah,
perfect.
There you are.
Ideal.
I love the fact you're here.
Massive weekend of sport, incidentally. We're calling it on TalkSport Supersonic Saturday because there is literally so much happening today. We have the first British and Irish Lions tour match, the first test match happening at 11 o'clock live on TalkSport. We have the Open Golf happening. That's kicking off around about 9 o'clock on TalkSport 2. Then we have the World Match Play Darts this evening. We have Usyk v Dubois 2 this evening in the boxing. Massive day of sport. I mean, I was asked earlier on to pick out my highlight. What's going to be the best thing? And I thought to myself, well, the best thing is going to be me sat on my sofa for most of this afternoon, just watching all of it on my various devices, and it's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to it. But no, I mean, look, for me, I'm a massive fan of the golf. I absolutely love it.
I've never watched it. Like, what is like?
But
what is there to
it's one of those
golf?
things where you can just kind of sit and just completely switch off. Because I play golf as well, so that probably helps. But no, watching some of these guys get round a course like they are at Royal Portrush in the way that they are is phenomenal to watch. They are so good.
Who's teeing off today, and who's set to win?
We're into the weekend, so the cut happened yesterday. So they've taken out basically the additional. I think they started with around 150 players, and they've cut it down to around about 60 now for the rest of the weekend, effectively. So the guys who are at the top of the leaderboard will start later on in the day. So world number one Scotty Scheffler is leading. He's going out at 3:35 with England's Matt Fitzpatrick, who's just behind. But there's some big names. There's a bit of a mix. There's some names who might not be expected to be up at the top. Rory McIlroy's had a bit of a mixed couple of days. He could have been a lot higher up, but he's just missed a few chances, so he's going off at 2:30. He's on 3 under par, 7 shots off the lead, which sounds like a massive golf, but you know, can take one good
Sounds
round.
like a massive golf. I see what you did there. Nice.
But yeah, you know, he's got a lot to build up to. He tees off at 2:30. As I say, all the action live on TalkSport 2 this afternoon. And then Lions as well this morning, rugby. It's going to be brilliant to watch. It's always an event when the British and Irish Lions are on and they're in town. First time in 12 years since they went to Australia as well. They're going in as very heavy favourites. Australia have not had the best couple of... They've not had the best, I would say, almost decade actually, since the 2015 World Cup when they made the final. It's just kind of all kind of come apart, really.
Yeah.
Rugby union's kind of fallen down the pecking order of Australian sport behind, you know, rugby league, cricket, Aussie rules football and things like that. So, yeah, it's interesting because, you know, one thing that they're really building up towards is the Rugby League Ashes later this year. Because obviously there's the Cricket Ashes, which is happening over Christmas, and then... Before that, they're bringing back the Rugby League Ashes for the first time in 22 years. So they're going to play 3 test matches here in the UK. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. But then, excuse me, it's a shame that the Lions test series has rather fallen by the wayside a little bit. I still think it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great watch.
I love a bit of egg carrying me.
It's going to be an even better listen because it's live on TalkSport at 11 o'clock.
There you are. If you're doing other things, if you're on the allotment digging up your marrows, you can still stay tuned to the sport. And boxing.
Yeah, massive night of boxing. Massive night of boxing. Alexander Usyk against Daniel Dubois. It's the second time they've faced off. Now, everyone sort of thinks because it's not Tyson Fury or Anthony Joshua. It's kind of like, well, you know, that he's not the big name in British boxing. Well, let me tell you that he's sold out Wembley Stadium.
Right.
You know, it's a pretty impressive display. This is a really highly anticipated fight. The winner is the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world.
Right, so if he beats Usyk, then he is going to be a big name in boxing.
He's going to be the biggest name in boxing because we've not had an undisputed champion of the world since Lennox Lewis, which is incredible. So it'd be fantastic for him, but I think it shows how healthy the sport is over here and how really up for it and interested the UK public is. Again, live on talkSPORT this evening. This is, you know, part of the Supersonic Saturday thing. It's, I think it's going to be such a good day.
Well, good. I'm glad you get something joyful to look forward to this weekend.
Absolutely.
Thank you ever so much to Tom Clayton, who's going to have to ungainfully crawl underneath the camera somehow to go and do his bulletin a bit later. Let's do some of your messages now, shall I? Because lots have come in. I haven't had time to talk about them. Sean, in God's own city of Gloucester, says, doesn't this latest episode of Afghan immigrants being brought here by our government make them one of the gangs Keith Starlin wants to smash? What, the government is its own gang that it wants to smash? I see what you're doing there. Oh, it does feel like they're ganging up on us, that's true. Morning, Alex. Great show. Is it? Good, thanks. Try my best. Every illegal migrant has already broken the law. The thing is that the Labour Party reversed that, didn't they? That was a sensible thing to put in place. If you've thrown your documents into the sea and broken into the country, guess what? You've broken the law. Oh, not anymore. We've gone back to calling them irregular migrants, not illegal. They should be watched by the authorities. They are not victims. They are here illegally. Law-abiding citizens need protecting across the UK. Our government is not doing this. How can there be a good outcome? This is the thing. There's one thing when they're in the hotels coming and going and doing Lord knows what in the community. How are they going to be monitored at all when they're in private accommodation? No one's going to know what they're getting up to inside and outside the house, what their movements are, whether they're working in the black market, dealing... I mean, whether they're making bombs in their bedrooms, for crying out loud. And Anna in Surrey says, Aldershot, little tiny town, safe for women when full of young male soldiers, now no longer safe when full of young male immigrants. The Indigenous are branded far right when they finally protest. The cowardly Labour MP now hides from her own constituency as the schoolgirls are given advice on how not to get attacked. Are we honestly saying that little schoolgirls in Aldershot are being taught in school how to not be attacked? Is this what we do now? We just let all these people in and go, oh, well, because they might be a threat to women, we better teach a few self-defence classes. It is ridiculous. John from Angus says, doesn't our Prime Minister have a house he's not using while he's in 10 Downing Street? She should let it out to asylum seekers and set an example to us all. I'm afraid they were set on fire, weren't they? Morning, Alex. I'm sorry to say this, but I think the police are part of the problem when it comes to the protests in Epping. They're taking sides, and the wrong side, says Brian in Worthing. This is after allegations that the police may have been helping to bus in the far left counter-protesters, which is not exactly going to simmer tensions down in those protests. And Dave in Romford said, yes, there is a video of the riot police putting these idiots in their vans and bringing them to the hotel. I've seen the video and it's shocking. When I come off there, I'm going to have a dig around and try and find it myself. Margaret in Birmingham says, morning, Alex, congratulations on your new home. Thank you ever so much. And you didn't even have to rock up on a boat across the channel. I know, I only had to work the best part of... Can't do the maths because I haven't had any sleep, but I don't know, like almost 30 years if I started work at the age of 14. I've had to work the best part of 30 years to toil to finally get on the housing ladder. If only I had just thrown my documents in the bin and got in a dinghy. June says, fab show, Alex, carry on standing up for me and the public. Thank you. I'll do my best if I can actually stand up. I'm not a fan of Danny Dyer, says Sharon from Staffordshire, but he's bloody right about working class people and they should be running our country. I've been saying this for years. We don't need these useless politicians ruining it. Well, not all working class people have the sort of brilliant common sense that we need, such as Angela Rayner. Be careful what you wish for. But I do agree, we've got way too many people whose experience of the world is so limited, so narrow. What on earth can they have to offer? Working class people in government is a great idea, says Paul in Hartlepool. Michael from Birchington in Kent says, my first pint of cider in a pub was a pint of scrumpy in Princetown in Devon. It cost 9p. Blimey. After the second, I couldn't walk in a straight line. This was in 1961 at 19 years old. Sounds good. I hope they still sell it down there in Princetown in Devon. And this, I love a little Gloucester fact. John says, have you heard of Robert Milkins, the snooker player? Well, wouldn't surprise you to say no, I have not. But it turns out he is from Gloucester. His walk-on music when he is introduced is I Am a Cider Drinker by the Wurzels. Of course it is. There you go. Robert Milkins joins the great and the good, such as Alex Phillips and Sir Chris Whitty. Yeah, these are the characters that Gloucester has to produce, as well as our good friend Sean, who sent another message saying, why, if all these immigrants come here because of the language, do they seem to need translators? Keep your thoughts coming in. 03444991000 is the number to call if you want to chinwag with me in person. We're going to be doing a lot more of that in the final 2 hours. Or you can use that number to carry on sending me WhatsApps and indeed leave me voice notes on WhatsApp if you'd rather send a text message. It's 87222. Write the word talk before your message. Everything's your normal network rate. Adverts now. Don't go anywhere. Put the kettle on. I'll see you on the other side.
We've been talking this morning about a new theme park which is going to be built. The Universal Studios apparently are going to build it in Bedfordshire. We've been asking many of you to give us some ideas for theme parks. Alison in South Wales says in the new theme park at 5 p.m. every day they could have the PIP parade. All the people driving their brand new Motability cars.
Instead of the water rapids, you can have a road you go down that's full of potholes in a car with bad suspension and flat tyres. I don't know why they're bothering building a theme park in this country. They're going right, no one will be able to afford to go to it anyway.
How about the Rachel Reeves ride, says Terry in Birmingham. You go round and round and vanish up your own deficit. It's the HS2 ride. It travels at high speed for 10 feet, where everyone gets off and into the replacement bus ride. Tickets are £50 if bought 5 months in advance, or £1,000 on the day.
There's a strong rumour going round that Rachel Reeves is going to have a kissing booth for this theme park. So what I do, mate, I shove a £5 in the pot and you can go in and fill your boots.
Thank you very much indeed, and very generous of you. One from G, who says fast-track entry to every ride for illegals, plus a free night stay in the park's hotel and free food. New theme park bumper cars will have to pay a congestion charge, and the funhouse isn't built yet, despite Angela Rayner's pledge to build houses. And what about Ghost Train doesn't move because the driver's on strike? Have a good day. This is brilliant for the theme park. How about grow your own cannabis farm? Yeah, that's a good one. An Ethiopian safari park narrated by Angela Rayner, says Gary in Durham. How about that? This sums up the Labour Party to me. The one idea they have to improve growth for the economy is to basically have a bloody big fun fair. It's the type of idea primary school children would pitch, given 10 minutes to come up with something. Well, it turns out, Matt, in Royston, that it's not even their idea. But they're now trying to claim it's their idea, even though it was actually the Tories.
They have done brilliantly on breakfast, but you know on Drive you've done brilliantly as well. Downhill slide ride surrounded by ULEZ cameras so that people are fined on exit. Love it. You could have a Birmingham-themed Whack the Rat stall. If you whack the rat, you can have your bin emptied for free. On the Labour theme park, a house of mirrors where they're all boarded up because they can't bear to look themselves in the eye.
I've got a great one for you, mate.
This is for the is this for the Universal theme park run by Labour?
Yeah, moat right around the park.
Yeah.
There's loads of dinghies. Call it the channel and say anyone who can break in, all is free.
Imagine the Scouts to say you can break into a theme park for free.
Hi, Jeremy. Hey, it's simple. You've got the Labour ghost train.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there and welcome back to the show. Alex Phillips with you for another 2 hours through till 10 o'clock to bring you all of the weekend's headlines and moan and whinge and try and have some fun and try and laugh and try and look after each other, because the world is a pretty ugly place, isn't it? So we got to stick together if we're going to survive it, us right-minded patriots. We got a country to save, and that takes a fair whack of energy, doesn't it? What are you up to this morning? Got a nice coffee, have you? Still snuggled up in your jimmy jammies, are you? Don't make me jealous. If you've missed the first 2 hours because, like a sensible person at the weekend, you were already still tucked up in bed and fast asleep, don't you worry. You can go back on YouTube and watch it from the beginning at your leisure at any point. During the day, I can keep you company wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Well, me in the past will do that because me in the future is probably going to go to bed. But there you go. You can watch us back on YouTube or on the Talk app. Right. Shall we get on with talking about the big stories of the day? Because I'm joined by a fantastic man. Hopefully he's going to make us laugh instead of cry. It's the comedian Paul Cox. Good morning to you, Paul.
Good morning, Alex. How are you doing?
I'm blooming knackered.
Yeah, well, you're full of beans. You see, you talk about being knackered, but you're always full of beans, Alex. I'd never know you were knackered. Never know you were knackered at all.
First of all, that is what the Donald would call fake news. That is fake news because I didn't even have 1 hour's sleep last night. I had one of those nights where, like, my body was against me. My nose was blocked up, my brain was whirring, and I kept going, if I go to sleep now, I'll get 5 hours. If I go to sleep now, I'll get 4 hours. If I go to sleep now, I'll get 4 minutes. Oh, well, I'm awake. But there you go. That's just life,
you're doing a great
isn't it?
job, Alex, so well done.
Oh, right, well, you say that 2 ears into our 2 ears. See, I'm falling apart.
There you go.
I'm falling apart. Now, let's talk about this because, I mean, when you read it, it does seem like a comedy headline, doesn't it? The fact that Afghan migrants have brought as many as 22 family members to the UK. What is this? The Taliban's answer to the Von Trapp family?
Yeah, it's gone mental, isn't it? It's gone absolutely crazy. This story itself, I mean, it's quite a serious story, really, isn't it? I mean, the idea that we can have a super injunction to... We never have super injunctions to protect the public from good news, do we? It's never, oh, we're going to give you free money, or we're going to, you know, there's lots of tax reductions on the way. It's always something crazy like this. And I think this will rumble on forever and ever. And Ben Wallace has got a lot more questions to answer. What's really interesting about this story, the more I read about it, is that family member's not defined in law either. So you could just invite anything. Uncle Bob, who isn't actually your Uncle Bob, he's your dad's mate from down the pub. Not they got pubs in Afghanistan, but you can just have anyone you like. Up to 22 members, one guy brought. 22 members. They were talking about knocking houses through on military bases to accommodate these people. I don't know where this ends, Alex. I mean, it's mad. They didn't stop the boats, and then they started the planes. They're just you know, they're almost making illegal immigration legal so that they can bring these people in without having to do anything about it. And I'm not suggesting this is just a Labour government or Keir Starmer problem, although I'd love to blame him for everything. You know, obviously this happened under the Tories' watch. So it doesn't matter which way you turn on this, the blob is against us.
It's mad, isn't it? I've never understood, right, when people go, oh, well, you know, we can't stop these people getting into our country without having to get rid of this legislation and leave the ECHR and do this and do that. And I'm like, it is a country. A country is defined by borders, and by international law, you're allowed to protect your borders. And what's more, we're an island, OK? This shouldn't take the wit of man to figure out that actually you could declare some sort of emergency and go, that's it, no one comes in. I'm sure they've got the levers to pull to sort this out right now. Do they not realise it's the 11th hour? They've not seen how people are kicking off down in Epping. And actually, the people of Epping are quite peacefully protesting. They should have a gander at the sort of scenes in Spain. Those guys are not taking it sitting down. All across Europe now, we're on the brink of some sort of all-out sort of intercontinental riot. And what are our leaders doing? Bussing in people with 22 made-up relatives.
Well, exactly. And the idea that the law doesn't protect us from an invasion, to me, it is crazy. You would imagine the Battle of Britain, and we just said, "Oh, come on in, chaps, you know, don't worry about it, ECHR, etc., and all that nonsense." It just wouldn't have worked. If you are being invaded every day by illegal immigrants who have no idea what their intention are, other than we assume, to set up home here, claim benefits, and do whatever, then you would comfortably assume that we would stop doing that as soon as the first crime took place. But we don't. I think figures that came out this week showed that 1 in 100, therefore 1% of these asylum seekers commit heinous crimes like rape, and we just keep bussing them in. we keep not busing, we're planing them in now.
Yeah.
We're allowing them in on the boats. None of this makes any sense. So for me, if the law isn't protecting us, then we either break the law or we rewrite the law.
Well, this is it. They're actually, it's worse than that. They're basically making their would-be rape victims, people like me, pay to stick them in 4-star hotels with full-board PlayStations, yoga classes, driving lessons, and Lord knows what else. I mean, it's just, it is disgusting. It disgusts me. I just can't, I just don't understand. I don't understand how all of these European leaders are just sitting there going, oh, I don't know what we can do about this. What? It's as if the concept of a country was invented yesterday. Grow up, do your job. Your politicians elected to look after your own people, not half of the blimmin' developing world, let alone the lunatic countries that think stoning women is a national sport, for crying out loud. Then you look at the rot that's set in our education. I think of the story of that poor girl who turns up to a diversity day at school or whatever it is and thinks, I'm going to represent my own country, my own culture. I'm going to stick on a union flag glittery frock and, you know, wear a nice little union flag hat. And the school, well, go, that's nice. Yeah, let's celebrate a bit of Britain. Go, no, you're not allowed to do that. Got to hate your country. Here's some nasty second-hand uniform. Off home you go. You should have come in, I don't know, some sort of cultural appropriation dressed as Bob Marley and one of the Wailers. Don't know what she was supposed to do. And then apparently this school's had to close early because it started receiving threats.
Yeah, I mean, just on the threats thing, I think both you and I, Alex, don't condone threatening the school anyway, but they did put themselves in the firing line. And one of the first things one of the teachers said to this little girl was, "You can celebrate British culture every day of the week. This isn't a day to celebrate that." I would immediately contest that. At what point do we celebrate British culture?
Right.
I've asked that teacher, okay, define British culture for me, because nobody else is willing to do it. Nobody else is willing to stand up and say what British culture is. British culture is about young girls like this celebrating. I mean, essentially, to you and I, she was dressed as Jelly Halliwell from 1997.
Yeah.
And that was a perfectly reasonable thing to celebrate. At the time, it was a huge story. People celebrated the dress. There was questions about whether it was too short or not. There was never any questions about whether celebrating being British is good or bad. If I would challenge the school or anybody who was against this. If a young Indian girl had come in with a Union Jack dress on, I bet they wouldn't have had an issue. They said, oh, this is marvellous. But that wasn't going to happen. That was never going to happen. You could argue, and I've seen this argued all week from the opposite side, that the parents or the girl was antagonistic in some way. Let's just imagine for a minute that they were. What is wrong with the Union Jack? Why do people find it offensive? How can a young girl... I mean, she's really quite articulate as well, Alex. You see any of the interviews with her, she hasn't said anything crazy. She hasn't said, oh, no, I don't want any immigrants over here. She just said, oh, I just celebrated my culture.
Yeah, why
My
not?
culture.
My culture. Yet we're constantly told that British culture, our national dish is curry and diversity is our strength. They're trying to erase us. They're trying to erode it. Can you imagine, you know, down the non-pubs of Kabul, them sort of raising a glass of whatever they drink, Karak tea, to Anglo-Saxon Excellence Day? Oh, do you remember the good old times when the British soldiers were here? Woo-hoo, love to be more like those Westerners, that'd be great. Problem is, most people in Afghanistan probably do want to be more like Westerners, which is why they come here in their droves. But no other country or culture in the world seems to do this. It's just Britain. The Americans, however woke they may be, still whack their flag on every single building possible. They still make kids at school sing the national anthem. The French can't help but ram it down your throat that they love eating cheese and drinking wine. It seems to be Britain is uniquely self-flagellating.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is the point, isn't it? And attacking a child like this, all this does is set in stone from this young point in their life that being British or celebrating British is bad in some way. You imagine those other kids that would have liked to have worn something Union Jack and are now looking at this thinking, I'm never going to do that again. I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to show anybody that I am proud to be British because it leads to trouble.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's already being set in. It's not clear where this is going to stop now. The school have apologised, but they've not apologised because they believed they made a mistake in the first place with regards to this Culture Day. They've apologised because quite clearly this father's gone straight to the news outlets and said, what do you think of this?
Yeah.
And it's erupted.
Yeah.
So they're apologising for getting caught.
Well, it's indicative, isn't it, of the sort of tone of the teaching in that particular school. You can just imagine the things they're being told to believe in assembly, which is why Sir Keir Starmer's rubbing his hands together in glee, thinking in 4 years' time they're all going to vote for us to destroy the country because they've been told destroying the country is the noble thing to do. It's just, honestly, but I just... don't even know where to begin with this. But good news from the world of common sense is apparently police aren't allowed to don all their rainbow lanyards and take the knee anymore.
Yeah, this is really interesting, isn't it? Because they always felt very safe going to Pride marches, LGBTQ plus marches, and painting themselves and having the livery on cars. And now a gender-critical lesbian within the police force has challenged this and said this is supporting trans ideology, and good for her, because there's only one thing police should be doing, and that's applying the law without fear or favour. Who cares if... I mean, I think the most least interesting thing about somebody is probably their sexuality, secondly followed by their skin colour. Why we need to signal this virtue is totally beyond me, particularly if it's the police. The community feeling safe is one thing, but I don't want criminals to feel safe. Yeah. And if you're a slight criminal mastermind, you'd dress up as whatever, attend one of these marches and commit a crime, wouldn't you? The thing about this stuff is it never, ever stands up to scrutiny. So as soon as the spotlight's put on it, it never stands up. So I mean, look at that picture there. Sadiq Khan stood with, some multiculturalism, some people of different sexualities. And as far as he's concerned, he's committing great politics. It means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. It doesn't stop the crime. People are still getting stabbed to death all over London. There's crime all over the country. No burglaries get solved. But, we shouldn't see the police celebrating in this way. There used to be a time where we might have gone, it's OK, don't worry about it. That would have been a time when we felt that crime was being tackled. The minute they're not doing job one, which is protecting the community from crime, then we are going to come down hard. I'm going to say, why are you interested in this stuff? Why are you telling us this? This doesn't make any difference to us. We want you to stop burglaries. We want you to stop people shoplifting. We want old ladies to be able to walk to the shop. We want kids to be able to play in the street. We don't want people... Look at this.
I'm looking. I just literally, my eyes are glued to that screen. What that one on the left could do with a big breakfast, couldn't he? He needs some nourishment. Worry about his health.
Smuggling some breakfast somewhere, Alex. But I don't.
What is it like? Oh, what is this supposed to make the world better? Do you know what? I can't remember when it was that we legalised homosexuality in the UK, because I wasn't born. It was that long ago. The fact that we need to keep banging on about gay people need rights. What rights don't they have? I don't understand. They've got more rights than I've got. Gay people are more likely to be like, have you got some sort of special sexuality? Then have a job that a straight person can't have. And while you're at it, have a bar that only you can go in. I mean, I don't understand this whole idea that we need to keep giving gay people rights, because the only people who seem to want to, like, throw them off buildings are the other people we seem to want to give rights to, which is the medieval Islamist community.
Look at that, by the way. There's Union Jacks on those pride flags. That's perfectly fine. Imagine if that young girl had turned up to school with a Pride Union Jack.
What's that one waving about in the front? It looks like a paper AK-47 or something. What on earth was that?
That's just their culture, Alex. That's absolutely fine. I mean, look at this, though. I mean, what does it achieve? It achieves nothing.
I tell you what, though, it's funny about Khan right there. He ain't holding that actual flag, is he? He stood there in the middle going, yes, I'm... Oh, no, he's touched the flag. He's touched the flag. Has he? Has he? No, he hasn't. Has he? Oh, he has. He's got the flag. Because I noticed when they interviewed him about who are your gay icons, he seemed to just list a load of straight women. He's like Madonna, Kylie Minogue. I'm like, oh, interesting.
Yeah, we're all supposed to believe that a man of the Muslim faith is totally behind this stuff. I mean, he's either a man of Muslim faith or he's a man that's interested in LGBTQ+. The two aren't actually that compatible. No. And, so that's fine. So what? But which one are you? Because you're just gaslighting the living daylights out of everybody in order to stay in power.
Actually, if we were going to make the whole sort of, like I was saying, we legalised homosexuality a gazillion years ago, what rights don't they have? If that Pride March were actually going to mean something about educating the public and pushing for equal rights for people from the gay community, it should be snaking its way through Tower Hamlets and Whitechapel. Not through the centre of London, not through Soho. Soho's their, holy city. They should try to take that flag down to some of the more tasty parts of town.
That would make a good show, wouldn't it?
I'd love that.
That would, just walking through Mile End with that Union Jack Pride flag in hot pants with your breakfast all smuggled in there like that. I just honestly, the more I think about this, the more I'm thinking, this is something we should pitch. This would be a great TV show. But it's we joke, but it's very serious, because you're absolutely right. These people, if they are being attacked, they're not being attacked by people in Soho or Westminster or somewhere like that, and nobody bats an eyelid. I'm in London most days of the week. No one cares what someone's sexuality is. If people walk down the street like that in London, people don't say anything. But there are certain parts of London where it's culturally deficient in some way, and they haven't taken on our values. And I'm sure that there would be things shouted at them. So perhaps you're absolutely right, Alex. Perhaps we should be getting.
Do you know what? I'm going to pitch this live on air right now, Paul. Watch me do it, Dean. You're like, Dean, yeah, there you go, wake up. Here's an idea, Dean. How about what we do next weekend is that after the show, we put you in some leather chaps and a dog collar, and I lead you down Brent High Street. How about that, son?
Back to Brent.
Would you like that? Oh, he says he's an IB-fer, never mind. Well, we can do it when you get back. You'll have a nice tan.
Yeah,
he's in for it. There you go, Paul. It's going to happen. We're going to make this happen. Tech Op's there. You ready to come film it, aren't you, Tech Op? No, Tech Op just looks scared. It's okay. We won't bring you into it. It's all right. But I think that's a great idea. Paul Cox, thank you ever so much.
Thank you, Alex.
And if you think I'm joking, seriously, Dean, I'm not joking. This is for calling me old and fat. I'm leading you up the street in a dog collar with a gimp mask on. There you go. That's how we will shield your identity. In little leather chaps with two little Pride dealy boppers on your head, singing Macho Macho Man. And we're going to go and do the whistle-stop tour of the finest grocery stores of Brent. I cannot wait. You want that, don't you? If you want that, vote by letting your opinion known on 0344 499 1000. Do you think Dean should be paraded through Brent? Yes, you do. Send me a WhatsApp message on that number as well, or indeed leave me a voice note. I haven't played any of those yet. I do love a cheeky voice note. Where are they? 87222 is the number if you would like to send me a text message instead. You've got to write the word talk before your message. And let me know, should Dean be paraded through Brent? Indeed he should. We're on next at talkTV. Don't go anywhere, because after this break, we've got our usual slot of a big old bang head-to-head debate. We're going to be joined by Matthew Torbett representing the left, Chloe Dobbs representing the right. Let's spice things up. That's after this.
And I've said, well done to the BBC, because they know they're going to get this
For
backlash.
removing a man's career, you think that's okay?
Look.
His
I said,
ability
well
to earn a living, Kev.
No, not at all. He will bounce back in other guys. Yeah, this is just one aspect of his overall empire that he's got, and I've got every confidence that he will bounce back. Listen, we've got to hold ourselves responsible for some of our actions. I've had to do the same thing. I've had to step down from being in a position of responsibility because I acted inappropriately. I lost my temper.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there and welcome back to the show. Let's do a couple of your messages before we get things really kicking off. Wakey, says Mick in Wallington. I was just moaning the fact that I've had no sleep. Starmer does a deal with Macron on migration. The French then announced that they're going to take migrants from Gaza. I guess where they will end up. They think we are fools. Oh, gosh. It's going to happen, isn't it? Oh, my God. Great. Morning, Alex. Can you explain why the police at the Epping protest wear riot gear to manage violence and aggression for white caring parents, but wear normal police attire for the white leftists and Muslims aggressively protesting about a bunch of Hamas terrorists in the Levant in London, says Alan in Middlesbrough. Yeah, interesting that. I do have my funny suspicions about why, if it is true, that Essex police were actively bussing in counter-protesters from the far left to come face-to-face with those who were peacefully protesting in Epping, because there's only one way that's going to end up, isn't there? You have to be a bit cynical if it is true. Many people saying that they've seen the video and therefore it is. I'm going to search for it myself. Righto, let us get ourselves ready. Buckle yourselves up, because it is time for this.
Head to head.
Hello, my darling heart. It's Chloe Dobbs and it's Matthew Torbett. Chloe represents the right, Matthew represents the left. Give each other a cuddle, shake hands, make eye contact, make it feel sincere.
We're all right, me and Chloe. We're all right.
We are now.
This will be pleasant and tame, I'm sure.
I mean, we're not going to
That's
get
not what
into
we ordered.
fisticuffs.
Pleasant and tame is not... Dean, you're not doing your job. Brent High Street for you. Did you hear that? We've decided that what we're going to do... We're moaning about the fact that the Pride March goes through places like Soho, where it's their headquarters. If you wanted actually to make a meaningful Pride March for community awareness and gay rights, that thing should be taking place down Brent. That thing should be winding its way through Whitechapel.
Well, I've no standard on the good people of Brent. We've done Pride marches in Brent. Brent are all right with it. Don't worry about that.
You are of the Brent massive.
No. I worked for many years for one of the members of Parliament in Brent.
That's a tasty part of London.
I think
I loved it.
I think they should take their Pride March to Gaza, especially the ones in Queers for Palestine. Ship them all over. They can go on the Freedom Flotilla with Greta Thunberg. I'm sure we can convince the IDF to let them in for a Pride March rather than turning it away, and see how they fare. See if they find out if Hamas are the lovely, kind, pro-LGBTQ+ people that they think they are.
Oh, wouldn't that be such a gorgeous spectacle? Channel 4 probably champing at the bit to make a documentary on it and send you.
Yeah, probably.
Right, now let's talk about this. Are Labour trying to rig the system by giving 16-year-olds the vote? Now, let's be realistic. This is politics, ain't it, Matthew? If they thought that all the future 16-year-olds were going to be voting for the Conservatives and Reform, they'd probably think twice about this policy. But I wonder whether or not they are a little bit too confident about the younger generation supporting left-wingism. What do you reckon?
I mean, whether they are or they aren't, I don't know. I think you should always do things because you think it's the right thing to do. I can only go off personal circumstance. I was in full-time work at 16 to 18. I felt I contributed to society in a meaningful way. That isn't a case for lots of people. Lots of people go into education, all of a manner of other ways. But it's the same argument I would have with people in the Labour Party that sort of want proportional representation, but they go, oh no, maybe we shouldn't, because in 2015 we'd have had UKIP and the Tories with a massive coalition. I think, well, it doesn't matter. If you think it's the right thing to do, you don't do it to benefit your own side, you do it because that's what you believe is right. So I think it's the right thing to do. Whether it will backfire, we'll see. I think if you look at...
Do you sort of buy into these narratives? And these are sort of such well-worn, well-rehearsed arguments every time we talk about votes for 16-year-olds by saying, OK, then, does that mean 16-year-olds should be able to go to adult prisons? Does that mean 16-year-olds should be able to stand for Parliament as well? Should 16, therefore, become the age of majority?
I don't know. I think we'll always have legal anomalies. I think, 16 is the age of consent. That's quite a big thing for lots of people. You'll be granted anonymity in a court if you do something awful, but you can't drink or smoke. You'll now be able to vote. You could legally have sex with your MP but not be able to vote for them, as it currently says. There's all manner of...
What a lovely prospect.
But this is what I mean. They're all well-worn arguments, and we can do it about tax and whatever else. There are just anomalies sometimes. And I think the talk of, well, they're naive and they'll be led aside. Listen, plenty of 40, 50, 60-year-olds I know that are very naive and...
Well, yeah, people voted Lib Dems, mate. I mean,
well, quite, yeah,
they got the vote. They seem to not have much brain. But Chloe, the problem's this, isn't it? You know, when I look at what the Labour Party have done, the local elections, where half of them are cancelled because apparently they're restructuring local authorities, so Big Ange said, do you want to have elections or not? And so clearly Turkeys don't want to vote for Christmas, and so half of all councils said, do you know what, we'd rather skip these ones, thank you very much. Preventing the country or preventing their constituents having any form of plebiscite. Now, I don't care if someone's in place for a year or whether someone's in place for 5 years. We have by-elections a year out from a general election. We don't go, well, don't you worry. We do that. And when you then see they want to bring in preferential candidate for the mayoral system, oh, look, Reform 1, 2 mayors. Should we change the way people vote? Now it's about vote for 16-year-olds. And you wonder, you brought up PR, Matthew, you wonder if they're looking at this, and I would predict this, because I was thinking, how are they going to stop Farage? How are the establishment going to stop him? And I thought to myself, that's what they'll do. They will change the rules of the game, and then they might bring in something like PR, and then what you'd find is potential super coalitions between the left wing, between SNP, Plaid, Lib Dems, Greens, and the Labour Party. You go, we won't stand a candidate there if you don't stand a candidate here. Let's all get together to block out reform, because that's what they've done in places like France. It's gerrymandering, and that is anti-democratic.
It absolutely is gerrymandering. The Labour Party have time and time again said that 18 should be the age of maturity for a whole host of other things. There was a great speech from Dan Hannan in the Lords back in 2022 where he goes through the list of things where politicians have time and time again, including Labour politicians, said it should be 18, be it Botox, getting a tattoo. I mean, you can't even buy a vape without being 18. But then miraculously, when it comes to votes, they think that the age of maturity is 16. Isn't that a coincidence? And typically, if politicians claim before a general election that they're going to make some sort of constitutional changes like House of Lords reform and whatnot, they typically don't make it a priority when they get into government, because they realise it's not really the thing that people who are just trying to pay their bills are focusing on. They're typically only going to do something if they think it is going to work to their advantage. And I thought that, clearly, Matthew, you're very principled about this, and you think maybe that votes at 16 is good just for democratic reasons. But I am just not convinced whatsoever that is why Labour are doing this.
I'm not convinced it's their motivation.
No,
right.
I mean, Keir Starmer, he did his media round after this was announced, and he says, oh, well, you can get a job at 16, and I think if you're paying taxes, then you should be able to say where your money goes. I'm sorry, you have to stay in education until 18. Yeah. Yes, you can maybe get an apprenticeship for a few quid an hour, or you can get a side job at the cafe. How many 16 and 17-year-olds are earning above the income tax-free threshold and are contributing
that's
to
a
the
very
state?
Good point.
There may be the odd one, like Matthew, you said you left school at 16 and worked hard, and sure, there will be a few, but the vast majority, I'm sorry. And
the vast majority aren't.
I remember... there will be some people who, as teenagers, are very switched on politically. I was, and, I was reading about it, and maybe I would have had a good idea of how to vote, but when I would try and talk to people at school about it, you'd mention the Prime Minister's name and they go, Who's that?
Yeah, no, I wasn't.
They literally don't know.
I wasn't.
I mean, I worry enough about students at university voting. I feel like they live in a complete bubble. Loads of them have never worked, never paid taxes, and they just go, tax the rich, and they just don't get it.
It's the
I'd
Alex
rather
Phillips
see the age go up rather
That's
than
what
down.
I was going to say. I would rather it went up to 21. Genuinely,
Stop
I would
the students
rather.
voting.
I'd rather it would, because I just want people to have a few years of the real world under their belt. And look, I know people like you, Matthew, had the real world under your belt by the age of 5 or something. But there are plenty of people out there who don't even get a taste of reality, the proper reality, and sort of burst out of their bubble until they're about 21. They haven't got the sort of miles on the clock. I'd see it go up personally.
It's true, but the only other thing I hope from this, from all governments of all stripes, is as a millennial, I felt like my generation has been shafted by governments for my whole youth, if I'm being honest, and we've been dumped on repeatedly. If you allow younger people, I wouldn't go any younger than 16 to be clear, the right to vote, I hope this means politicians will stop ignoring young people.
Yeah, but the problem is this, Matthew. I agree, it sounds, everything you say in principle I agree with, but the problem is these kids are being taught in school that everyone from every, flea-ridden country has to come and live in the UK, that net zero and saving the planet. These are things, actually, that might turn out to be acts of national self-harm that these kids are voting for. They have these sort of lovely whimsical ideologies about stuff, which if they then back it, they don't realise they're hurting themselves, and that's what I mean, getting a few more miles under the clock. Now, interestingly, when you talk about voting blocks, there's one particular voting block which always proves to be extremely well organised in getting the numbers out, or at least getting the postal ballots in, and that is the Muslim community. They're extremely organised and often vote as one big block for the same person. And it turns out someone's done a little bit of number crunching here, that ironically, Health Secretary Wes Streeting and Justice Secretary Shabana Mahmood are among a string of senior Labour figures at risk from a potential surge in support for independent candidates running on a pro-Palestine platform if 16-year-olds were given the vote.
Yeah, I mean, I think whether they were or they weren't, these people may well lose their seats anyway. I think if you add a youth element to that, where there is a large Muslim community who are preoccupied by issues like Gaza, then yeah, of course they will. I believe Liam Mohammed that narrowly lost to Wes Streeting has been out every weekend since the election, constantly keeping up that momentum. This is something Wes Streeting is acutely aware of, and from my understanding has put together a team of people, one to make him leader of the Labour Party, but there is a dual objective to save his seat, because you've got places like that. There's also rumours that Zara Sultana is looking at moving from Coventry and therefore standing in Birmingham Ladywood, which is Shabana Mahmood's constituency. She is originally from Shabana Mahmood's constituency in an area called the Zells. Massive Muslim community in Birmingham Ladywood, or if not Hodge Hill, where Labour only won by a few hundred votes again. And this is the problem for Labour. I think they're losing votes left and right, because you've got people drifting away towards maybe a Jeremy Corbyn independent Gaza type situation, the Greens, maybe some Liberals, but you've also got those ironically, the 16-year-olds who I think are drifting more to the right, from the people I even meet in the Labour Party, who've said it's your generation, the millennials, that have made everything really woke, and we are facing the backlash, and they're actually sort of quite anti-woke in that sense, who will be drifting towards reform, who I think from 16 to 24-year-olds getting about 10%, which doesn't sound a lot, but come a general election, and depending on the areas it's in, it'll become quite squeezed.
It is interesting, actually. There have been huge reports done on the continent of Europe showing that the future generation of voters are quite alt-right, actually. Nigel Farage following on TikTok and things like that. Pretty enormous. Right, let's go to a cheeky little advert break now, so we can all get a cup of tea and then come back for some more political debate after this.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, welcome back. Let's continue with Head to Head, because I'm still joined by the wonderful Chloe Dobbs and Matthew Torbett. Diane Abbott. Now, she made those comments however long ago it was, basically saying there's a different type of racism when it comes to anti-Semitism and people against Roma gypsies or whatever it may be, and black people, because, well, colour of skin is instantly identifiable, whereas you can't tell whether someone is of a certain religion or, you know, lifestyle group, whatever you want to call travellers. And then she got booted out of the Labour Party for it. Then she does a big sit-down interview with the BBC, and they ask her about this. And she was made to apologise at the time. She was reinstated to the Labour Party, and they said, you know, do you stand by what you said then? And she said, well, yes, because what I'm basically saying is someone's skin colour is something you can't disguise. And so it comes as a different form of prejudice to other types of prejudice. And so they've booted her out again. And she said, look, the leadership just wanted me booted out. I kind of think she's probably right, isn't she, Matthew? The leadership just don't really want her there.
Yeah, no, it's... I think Diane's initial comments before the last election were a bit clumsy, to say the least. And I think to sort of talk about certain types of groups not facing racism and it being more prejudice and it being similar to that of ginger kids at school and stuff like that, I think you're going to annoy certain communities with that, and I don't think it's quite right. I think this time round, from what I gathered from the interview and what I've listened to, is that she aimed to clarify that racism exists, but there are different types of racism, because unless you were an Orthodox Jew, where it is very obvious that you are a Jewish person, you may not know unless you sit down at a meeting with them, as Diane said, or unless you've spoken to them. She said from 100 metres away you can tell that person is black, and that is where certain types of racism can be more pernicious than others. I think this is a concerted effort from those on the right of the party that I've wanted Diane out for some time, and I feel like they're almost, even with the whip removals that are slightly different earlier this week, the four Labour MPs that were seen as rebels despite having a 96% agreement rate when voting with the government. It's almost like a, go on, let's go and see if you join Jeremy. Go on, we're trying to push them into the arms, because that's an easy way just to totally get rid of them then. But no, I feel for her. A friend saw her on the way out the day that she'd been suspended. She was in tears. You know, she wants to be part of the Labour Party. She's never been an independent person. Jeremy Corbyn was an Islington person. He wasn't a Labour person, and Jeremy's, I've been happy to go his way. People like John McDonnell, people like Diane Abbott, Labour's in their blood, and they would want to leave Parliament probably at the next election as a Labour MP. And it's a shame, massive shame.
Although some might say it's poetic justice, because Diane Abbott has sort of made a great deal of the colour of her skin, a lot. I always think in a world that's truly without racism, it's better just not to, you know, focus on this stuff all the time, not have some sort of hierarchy of victimhood. I disagree with that, and just get on with it. Most people in the country don't sit there and obsess over the fact that Diane Abbott is black, in the same way no one obsessed over the fact that Kemi Badenoch is black or Rishi Sunak is Indian. Frankly, as a nation, we don't seem to care too much about this stuff, but certain people really know how to sort of, you know, make it work for them. And on this occasion, Diane, it hasn't.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the least racist countries in the world, but you've got a lot of people who, you know, live in their woke victimhood bubble who think that we are all a bunch of racists in this country, and it's simply not the case. You know, these people that go up with their stand up to racism placards everywhere. Now, of course, every society is going to have some racists in it, and if someone suffers a racist attack or an incident, then of course you should speak about it. But it's definitely overdone. It's fair to say. I mean, on the question of her comments, should she have been suspended? I think Matthew is right to describe her words as clumsy. It maybe wasn't something that was extremely offensive, but it's going to upset some people. And the Labour Party are very, very concerned about the previous, anti-Semitism in the party, and so they're just having an absolutely no tolerance of anything that is going to upset people and make people start questioning, has the Labour Party really got rid of their anti-Semitism problem? And Diane Abbott, she has been rebellious, when it comes to the welfare bill and everything else. She's often been trying to stand up and make as many speeches as she can. It seems almost like she's on the opposition rather than with the government, some of the speeches that she makes in Parliament. And clearly, after that disastrous situation with the welfare bill, where the main part of it got completely stripped out at the last minute, Keir Starmer feels like he needs to put some discipline into the party. So
he's thrown a few under the bus, hasn't he, to set a precedent?
He's figured yes, there were a lot of people that were rebelling. You had, over 100 MPs wanting to rebel on the bill before they changed it. He wasn't going to kick all of those out, was he? But he felt he needed to just have a few people to make an example of. And clearly Diane Abbott, with her rebelliousness over the past year and then these comments, she's one that had to go.
Now, talking about comments, what do you make of this? People like Lucy Connolly, as we know, is in prison, jailed for nearly 3 years for what the prosecutors would say was inciting rioting. And yet NECAP stand on stage with an audience, not just of hundreds of thousands, but millions, potentially even more, televised, and urge the crowd to start a riot. And then the police go, yeah, nothing to see here. Is that two-tier, Matthew?
We've always had a two-tier justice system. This isn't anything new. Right. I think with this, and I don't say this as like a fan of NECAP, I've never really listened to their music or anything. They said something stupid. Lots of people say things that are stupid. They then, I think, probably had someone in their ear, because within minutes they came back on stage and said, oh, actually, just a caveat, retract that. They basically retracted what they'd said and then moved on. I think in that instance, our courts are fit to burst with things that probably shouldn't be there in some cases. I think to add this to it would seem silly. And I say that more as someone, not because I believe in their political message, but because freedom of speech is an important thing.
Would you want to see Lucy Connolly let out?
I believe since November she's been on. She's allowed out on temporary licence. That should totally have happened by now. I think it's bizarre that she's not allowed to spend the weekend with the kids if she's to serve a full sentence. That's up to the prison system, whatever. But ultimately, from a pure rehabilitation point of view, she should have been let out since November.
Look, I'm with Matthew, Chloe, on one thing, which is I don't want to see people being dragged to court or thrown in prison for something they've said, however tasteless, unless you're literally there on Telegram organising, far-right activists or football hooligans to go do something. As far as I'm concerned, we're all adults, and just because someone says jump off the roof, we don't have to jump off the roof. NECAP can say what they like. If people then go out and riot, it's the people who are rioting who should be chucked into clink, not people who've said words, OK? So that's where I stand, but it's got to be universally applied.
Yeah, I think we need to have much clearer standards as to what is the threshold for incitement. I think Lucy Connolly, I do not think that she met that threshold. She made a general comment saying, burn the hotels for all I care. I'm not saying that it was a nice comment. It was pretty disgusting what she wrote, and she realised that a few hours later and took it down. But I wouldn't say that is at the threshold. I think that you can say, for something to be incitement, it needs to have a time and a place. In the case of NECAP, what they said, they did actually say, we'll be at the courts at Westminster on this day, come and riot. They gave a time and a place.
Right, yeah.
If anything
that was the equivalent of the oral Telegram message saying to people.
Yeah, and also, this was in, yes, they may have retracted the comment after Matthew, and I understand a lot of people make mistakes, but I'll say two things. First of all, this was not, Joe Smith on Facebook to his 5 friends, as we saw, some people were put in prison for Facebook posts and whatnot. That probably not that many people saw. This was people with a huge following and a huge audience. Yes, the BBC may not have been playing it, but there was someone was streaming it from their phone, and it had, I think, 1 million people tuning in. And second of all, it's not like this is the first time this lot have made a mistake. Yeah. They are going to the courts for a reason, right? They decided on stage to put up their, take off their jumpsuit and show their we are all Palestine action top. Yes, it had not technically been prescribed yet, but they knew it was about to be prescribed, and it was like the last day or so left. They're clearly a group that likes to cause chaos and stir the pot and go and break the rules where they can. So I don't have sympathy for them, to be honest. I think that if. But
they hadn't broken the law, technically, on that, is what you're saying. They're pushing the envelope, absolutely.
Yeah, they're pushing it. But to say these are people who behave themselves and they just made a small honest mistake,
I didn't say that. Yeah, no.
I think is wrong. The kneecap, they are absolute troublemakers, and they gave a very clear time and a place.
Yeah, that's true.
To riot.
What I find absolutely astonishing is the BBC were hypersensitive about causing anybody offence and putting trigger warnings on things such as, only fools and horses. That they're like, keep the cameras rolling. Yeah, let's keep this as good stuff, a cultural moment. Talking about the BBC, we're going to be discussing this after the break. The true cost of watching it has been revealed as the television production of the BBC has increased to 1.4 billion last year alone. It costs a lot, doesn't it, doing that live telly? We should know. We're going to be discussing that after this.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to the show, and for our final chunk of Head to Head, let's debate the BBC, shall we? I teed it up before the advert break, something that, of course, the BBC doesn't have to have because they're paid for by us. And there's always a big debate over the licence fee and the fact it keeps going up and up, the fact that non-payment should be decriminalised, etc., etc., etc. But the BBC have not been very good at tightening their belts. The Telegraph have done a bit of an analysis, and the cost of watching the BBC has shot up by 3/4 in 10 years alone. So licence fee income rose to just over 3.2 billion 24-25 financial year. because the licence fee went from £169 a year to £174.50. That funds radio output and online journalism, but the majority goes into television production. Now, they've done a load of clever maths here and found out during the Brexit vote, when the BBC's reach was getting an 82% audience, it cost about 8p an hour to make Telebox. Today, when the audience has fallen to 63%, so it's dropped by 20%, and this is in under 10 years, it now costs almost double that at 14 pence per hour. Why are we spending so much money now on stuff that fewer and fewer people want to watch, and it costs more and more to make? What do you think needs to happen, Matt, with the BBC?
It'd be easy to say adapt with the times. That's what everybody says since, forever. I can understand them putting more money in because, like anybody else in the media, they're battling for ratings in a time where particularly younger people, but I think people across all generations, aren't watching TV. They're watching TikTok, they're watching YouTube, they're listening to podcasts. And I've noticed the BBC have put a lot more podcasts out, and whether they're trying to grab those sorts of people.
They make a lot of podcasts. I mean, sometimes, because I like a bit of BBC Sounds when I want to nod off, didn't help me last night. But when you look at how much churn there is, everyone's been given a blimmin' podcast. So I'm like, you don't need to make this much. I just think the BBC rips the pee when it comes to the amount of content they make. Answer me this, Chloe. Look, I personally am not necessarily against the licence fee. I know that's probably an unpopular view in this building with the audience, but I'm not, because I think if it works properly, there's actually a goodness that comes from having a state broadcaster. Loads of other countries are ripping off limbs to try and get a credible one. Do you know what I mean? Qatar wants Al Jazeera, the Chinese want theirs, France want France 24, Saudi Arabia, Al Arabia. It is actually an amazing diplomatic tool to have if it's done properly. But what we got in the UK is no taxation without representation, and yet the BBC basically takes a tax, and no one gets to vote for who the Director General is or what his manifesto is, what the content's going to be. And we have so much being made by the BBC. Like I said, endless podcasts, ridiculous amounts, 4 blimmin' channels, 2's enough. Let's stop there. And then sometimes when you look at all of it, and I actually do think that World Service is a tool of soft diplomacy and quite useful, although BBC Arabic is basically Hamas FM. But when you look at some of the other things that we're, all these various, Asian network and this, the funniest one you've got to look at, and if you've never done this at home, ladies and gentlemen, get your phones right now. Google BBC Pidgin, P-I-D-G-I-N. Yeah, feast your eyes on that during the next advert break. But it is a behemoth, isn't it, of broadcasting?
Yeah, they have not adapted to the times. I know, Matthew, say that's an easy thing to say, but if they were a private company that actually needed to make a profit, there is absolutely no way that they would be, fixing this problem of fewer and fewer people watching the BBC by producing more and more stuff. Why don't you make a few things that are good? I mean, look at Amazon Prime, for example, right? They've done Clarkson's Farm, and that one show has just absolutely smashed it in the ratings. Everyone is watching it. They aren't putting out a million different shows, mediocre shows to try and get a broader audience. And I will disagree with you in that I do think that the licence fee is out of date. It did used to be the case that, there were a few channels on the telly and everyone would watch it, but I think it is deeply unfair that you have to pay what is more than a Netflix subscription just to have a TV, which you'll often turn on and just put Netflix on. That article that we've just been looking at, the figures that I thought the more interesting figure in that article was where they put just over the past 10 years, they put like 2 bars, a dark blue bar and a light blue bar, of how many people with a TV are actually watching BBC versus they've got a TV and they're non-BBC viewers. And even just in the past 9 years, it has changed drastically. It looked like maybe 30-40% of the people that are paying that licence fee and have a TV aren't actually tuning into the BBC.
But the BBC
and there's something deeply wrong about
the BBC
that
have binned off the stuff that to me is public service broadcasting. Like BBC News Channel has gone. People might not realise it, but what they're tuning into now is BBC World, essentially. It isn't domestic news for the British public. It's for the international audience. And yes, well, I think that's a great tool of soft diplomacy. If you were going to pay for something from the licence fee, it's stuff like that. And sport. People want to watch the F1 without having to pay 80 quid a month to Sky. That's That's the sort of thing I think it should cover. Anyway, guys, that's it. The head-to-head is done, and there was no punch-ups. Give each other a cuddle.
There you go.
Oh, a handshake would do. Anyway, thank you ever so much, Matt Torbett, and to Chloe Dobbs. We're going to take a short break now, but don't go anywhere because I'm back on the other side. Put the kettle on, look at BBC Pigeon, and we'll catch up just after this.
We've been talking this morning about a new theme park which is going to be built. The Universal Studios apparently are going to build it in Bedfordshire. We've been asking many of you to give us some ideas for theme parks. Alison in South Wales says in the new theme park at 5 p.m. every day they could have the PIP parade. All the people driving their brand new Motability cars.
Instead of the water rapids, you can have a road you go down that's full of potholes in a car with bad suspension and flat tyres. I don't know why they're bothering building a theme park in this country. They're going right, no one will be able to afford to go to it anyway.
How about the Rachel Reeves ride, says Terry in Birmingham. You go round and round and vanish up your own deficit. It's the HS2 ride. It travels at high speed for 10 feet, where everyone gets off and into the replacement bus ride. Tickets are £50 if bought 5 months in advance, or £1,000 on the day.
There's a strong rumour going round that Rachel Reeves is going to have a kissing booth at this theme park. So what I do, mate, I shove a £5 in a pot and you can go and fill your boots.
Thank you very much indeed, and very generous of you. One from G, who says fast-track entry to every ride for illegals, plus a free night stay in the park's hotel and free food. New theme park bumper cars will have to pay a congestion charge, and the funhouse isn't built yet, despite Angela Rayner's pledge to build houses. What about Ghost Train doesn't move because the driver's on strike? Have a good day. This is brilliant for the theme park. How about grow your own cannabis farm? Yeah, that's a good one. An Ethiopian safari park narrated by Angela Rayner. Says Gary in Durham. How about that? This sums up the Labour Party to me. The one idea they have to improve growth for the economy is to basically have a bloody big fun fair. It's the type of idea primary school children would pitch, given 10 minutes to come up with something. Well, it turns out, Matt, in Royston, that it's not even their idea. But they're now trying to claim it's their idea, even though it was actually the Tories.
They have done brilliantly on breakfast, but you know on Drive you've done brilliantly as well. Downhill slide rides surrounded by ULEZ cameras so that people are fined on exit. Love it. You could have a Birmingham-themed Whack the Rat stall. If you whack the rat, you can have your bin emptied for free. On the Labour theme park, a house of mirrors where they're all boarded up because they can't bear to look themselves in the eye.
I've got a great one for you, mate.
This is for the is this for the Universal theme park run by Labour?
Yeah, moat right around the park.
Yeah.
With loads of dinghies. Call it the channel and say anyone who can break in, all is free.
Imagine a Scouser say you can break into a theme park for free.
Hi, Jeremy. Hey, it's simple. You've got the Labour ghost train.
Yeah.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back, my lovelies, my patriots, you wonderful, discerning people. If you've only just joined us, frankly, I don't blame you, because it's a bit of a grim... My goodness, look outside. It is a grim day. You can't even see the skyline of London. It's just grey-washed. So if you're still tucked up in bed and you haven't joined us for the first 3 hours... There's no accusations here, but you can go back and watch it all from the beginning on YouTube at any time of day, whether you're mowing well, you won't be mowing your lawn, will you, unless you want to electrocute yourself. But whatever you're doing today, hiding up inside, I don't know, sitting under your slanket, I can keep you company for 4 full hours. You don't have to tune in straight away, but, you know, do. Set your alarms at 6 a.m. next Saturday, OK? Because that just makes my viewing figures really good, and then the people like me who are my bosses, it's all going to work out well for everybody if you do that. But if you're more sane than that, then you can go back and watch from the start on YouTube. Talking about sanity, one of the sanest of them all, because she's the political editor of The Sun on Sunday, which is the world's greatest newspaper. Kate Ferguson is here to guide us through the big political stories of the day. The Sun is somewhere in my pile here while I dig this out. Tell me what we're going to be kicking off with.
Well, we're kicking off with this story in the paper today, which is about, you know, we've heard so much about the ECHR this European legal framework that stops us being able to deport foreign criminals. And we find out today in today's paper that actually the government have no idea, are not counting, and have no idea how many people are being deported, how many deportations are actually being blocked because of the ECHR. So the ECHR is this thing where people use it all the time to stop themselves being deported back to their own country.
Chicken nuggets.
Exactly.
And all that
most
stuff.
famously, because somebody's son didn't like chicken nuggets, they got to stay in the UK. That's the most famous example. And you'd think, given all of the political controversy about that, that we would at least know how many people are being blocked from deportation because of that law.
What I don't understand as well is these people who are supposed to be deported. I think once the decision's made, the decision's made, right? It should be done. And it's like, no, you have a right to appeal. OK. But then they keep pressing the appeal button about 3, 4, 5 times. And you're like, yeah, that's a bit like someone saying, you know, you've got to go to prison, now I want to appeal it, and just keep the cycle going over. And at some point, it's got to be the final decision. How on earth does it manage to keep ticking over like that? And the cost, I'd love to know. If they're not sort of recording how many people aren't being deported, there's no doubt they're not actually keeping any statistics on what the UK taxpayer bill is, because we have to pay to defend the government and to defend the person who don't want to be deported.
Exactly. It's a huge bill, and there's a huge industry around it. So many lawyers who are defending or arguing the case for these asylum seekers and migrants, they're making plenty of dough by using these intricate laws. Meanwhile, the government have to foot the bill to fight these claims, and that's why you get this huge cycle of appeal after appeal, case after case, cost after cost.
I reckon, I'm going to put on my tinfoil hat here, but I reckon if you dug around in some of these law firms, I'm not accusing all immigration lawyers of this, of course I'm not, but I reckon if you dug around amongst some of them, I bet they actually have a direct correspondence with some of the people traffickers. I just don't believe that people suddenly turn up and are well versed in what they have to say and all of a sudden manage to find a high street lawyer. You know, I know people like Care for Cali and, you know, do-gooders like that play their part, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a certain element of a racket going on here. I don't know. No evidence, just suggesting it. Wasn't someone at one point going to dig around in that and sort of immigration laws? I have this sort of memory of a ghost of a story past where
I can't quite recall that one.
A politician was sort of like, we're going to investigate the immigration lawyers.
Oh, yeah, well, I think under the last government and under the last Home Secretary, you know, there was a lot of talk about that, but it never really got anywhere.
No.
And these people, you know, while these laws are enshrined in our laws, you know, there's not much we can do about it.
I couldn't believe going on the Bearings website, who apparently this law firm who are looking after all the Afghans now and saying, you know, do you want to sue the UK government? Which isn't the UK government. I say this every time. This whole idea of suing the government means us. We pay our taxes. We're the ones being sued. You know, would you like to sue the UK government for the data breach? You go on their website and it's like one of these big pop-ups flashing, you know, have you been missold PPI?
Yeah.
And it's like, this is just, I find it grotesque.
Yeah, it's like, it's one day you'll get one headline and then immediately just opens the door to all of these legal suitcases. And it is a massive industry, and it is actually quite aggressive selling, isn't it?
It is aggressive selling.
Yeah, exactly. We all have those like PPI adverts shot at us, but it is very, very kind of sharp-elbowed aggressive selling.
Because that's the thing, you get one case which stands up to the law, and then you go, there you go, there's the case precedent. That means all these other people,
exactly, you
automatically get compensation.
Yeah, that kind of class action thing.
Yeah,
exactly.
Oh, it's disgusting. Okay, what are we talking about next?
Right, below that, on the same page, if your listeners have got the paper at home, maybe the paper boy's been round to deliver the paper, we've got this case. You know, we've done so much on this in The Sun about the illegal migrants working as delivery drivers.
Yeah.
So we had those shocking images of that big hotel right in the middle of the city of London, which was used as a migrant hotel, and you just had dozens and dozens of delivery bikes outside. Well, our journalist has gone to a court case as one of those people on one of those bikes has been arrested and charged with illegal working. Anyway, turns up to court, and would you believe it, the person accused of the crime doesn't bother to turn up.
But what? I thought they got free travel so they could attend all of their vital appointments.
I mean, it's hardly the biggest kind of bombshell revelation if anybody has ever covered any magistrates' courts case. This happens quite a lot. But it does go to show the absolute difficulty of the state. Once these people have arrived here, we're under an obligation to house them, to take care of them, to, as you point out, give them some money to live on. And it's so difficult for the state to keep an eye on these people and to actually enforce our own laws.
Right, but also, which is going to get much worse when they're put in private accommodation as well, not like it's working in the hotels, let's be fair. But what I want to know is if this was... you know, a Tory MP who happened to have an illegal cleaner, they would be dragged to court as the employer. And rightly so. You know, there's plenty of black market operations we can see everywhere on the UK's high streets, from hand car washes to nail bars to dodgy souvenir shops to candy stores to you name it. You can see it from a mile off, and not enough is being done. Why on earth aren't Deliveroo and Uber Eats being dragged in front of the Select Committee of Parliament? Or actually, not even that. Not like, can you explain yourself? Just, you're gone. You're not operating anymore. It's done. It's over, because you are flouting the law. You're not doing enough. There aren't enough checks and balances. And there is no doubt that you don't know this, because there are things online. Again, these people who come over on the boat are immediately getting text messages and schooling them of how to join a Reddit group to find out how you can take somebody's delivery licence and get about earning money straight away.
Yeah, I think actually this is a really important point that I imagine will have so much scrutiny and be raised again and again, because we have this so-called gig economy. The whole point of that is that, I don't know, say you're studying as a university student, you'd have the flexibility to do a bit of work in the evenings or weekends. But we've seen, haven't we, how that's fueled this giant black market. And actually a lot of these people, a lot of these delivery firms, they're staffed illegally by illegal migrants. So there is a question here for the state, for the government. Do they make Deliveroo formalise that relationship? Basically, do they say to Deliveroo, this, you don't get to have this flexibility, you are the employer, and therefore you are liable for all your employees, as traditionally bosses always were?
I don't understand why they're so... I mean, I just don't understand why nobody's actually called them to face the music in Parliament yet. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. And, you know, talking about these migrants in their hotels working in the, you know, as delivery drivers and all the rest of it, the fact that people at Epping Forest have seen outside that migrant hotel, they've looked through the windows and seen bottles of unopened Moe in some of the bedrooms, you're like, really? Like, really? What is going on? Meanwhile, we're all being rinsed if we own a car, it turns out.
Yeah, exactly.
Like we hadn't noticed.
Exactly. So, obviously, we're all being clobbered by massive taxes week in, week out. We see it in our paychecks. But these are some stats revealing just how much tax you're paying if you're driving a car. So, you know, every year there's this big debate, will the government raise fuel duty or not? We've got this big budget coming in the autumn where that debate will be raised all over again. But in The Sun today, they're revealing that motorists paid more than 20 billion in VAT in the last year alone. So, you know, we're often told, oh, we're keeping your costs down as drivers, we're going to freeze fuel duty, we've got your back. But the reality is that hidden, baked into driving your car every day are a bunch of taxes which the Treasury are hooked on.
No, in London anyway, it's just dreadful owning a car. It's just dreadful. You know, if you don't have someone drive into it and drive off, probably an Uber driver who's not supposed to be working for Uber. That's happened to me twice now on my street with thousands of pounds worth of damage. CCTV both times. Oh, because of GDPR, I'm not allowed to look at it. And a nice letter from the Met Police going, sorry, we don't investigate this anymore. Oh, great, thanks. I'll just have to pay a massive premium then, won't I? So not only do you have that, you've then got the risk of, you know, having to try and crawl out of London without breaking the 20-mile-per-hour limit. So many people now losing their licences. Normal people who need their cars to pick their kids up from school, visit an elderly relative, being punished time and again for going 24 on a 20, which is almost physically impossible with a modern combustion engine. Actually impossible with a modern combustion engine. You know, being caught on a camera, accidentally inside a yellow box. And yet, I see when I drive people in ballies with L plates on scooters, you know, apparently delivering blood around the capital city, spliff hanging out their mouth, weaving in around, driving on pavements, and nothing seems to happen to them.
I think the reality is that in London, they've made it a city, or they're making it a city almost where you can't drive.
Yeah.
You're right, like that thing about driving at 20 miles per hour within most London boroughs, that's been rolled out. I think originally it was just Islington, it's being inched and inched out further and further.
Everywhere.
You've got the ULEZ charges, which just clobber you. I mean, it's hard enough to find a parking space. In reality, London is being made a kind of hostile environment for drivers. Yeah. And I think that's not on purpose, to be honest.
Oh, it is.
But it is also true that in London, OK, fine, we have got the tube. and we've got pretty good trains and we've got pretty good buses. But for most of the country, people rely on their cars. They rely on their cars to get to work. Most people drive to work. Most people drive to take their kids to school. And those are the people that are left with no option but to use their car, to be honest. Lots of these places, there are no trains, there's certainly no tubes, and sometimes there's often no buses.
And also, you know, I don't want to constantly do this, but I like doing it because I do think that things matter more to women sometimes than men. But as a woman, sometimes your car is your safety. You don't want to be taking a bus at 11 o'clock at night if you're a nurse who's just finished a shift, you know, because you might not feel safe. You don't want to be getting into a minicab because you might not feel safe. You don't want to be walking home because you might not feel safe. So what you want to be able to do is get in your car, lock the door and transport yourself safely from A to B. And I think that the more this is denied to young mums, to women who tend to be the not always, but tend to be the ones to go and visit the sick relatives or go down the supermarket to do the shop, it's a big problem. We need to make driving easy again for people.
Yeah, actually, I think that's a total fair enough point, the safety of the women. But also, as you point out, it's mums that tend to have the kids do the care, got the pram, got the kind of toddlers, the tiny tots with them. And it's much easier in a car than schlepping on and off a bus, even in London.
Do you live in London? Do you have a car?
I actually don't have a car.
Wow, there you go. Because I was going to say, have you got points and are you going to win prizes? Because I sure do.
Don't have a car,
I'm racking them at me because sometimes I have the audacity to try and escape London in my four
Have you been
wheels.
caught out on the 20 mile an hour? Everyone's been caught out on the 20 mile an hour.
Everyone has.
Yeah.
Everyone has. And I've actually, my insurance company, like, we're going to have to review your policy. I'm like, great, I'll probably be not allowed to have insurance now, and then I'm going to be stuck, aren't I? I'll just set up a little tent out there on floor 17 in the waiting. At least we got a good canteen.
Sleep on the floor.
Building.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could probably survive, like, you know, Forrest Gump or whatever his name is, Tom Hanks in that airport film in Talk Towers, quite easily. Wonderful to have you back in the studio, the fantastic political editor of The Sun on Sunday, Kate Ferguson, ladies and gentlemen. All right then, we're going to take a short break now. We are in the final hour and it's time that you did some of the heavy lifting because I'm circling the plug hole. I've got a little bit of breakfast that horrible producer of mine, Dean, has bought me, which I'm going to try and film a face with to crawl through the next 45 minutes. But to help me out, I'd love to hear from you. So throw in your two-ith. 0344499 1000 is the number if you would like to phone me and chat with me in the studio. I'd like that very much. It's your normal network rate, which means we're not charging you. It's free therapy. You don't get that easily on the NHS without waiting for about 3 years. 0344499 1000 is also our number on WhatsApp, and you can leave me a voice note if you'd rather be a little bit more coy but still have your sonorous tones ring out on national radio. 87222 is the number to send me a text message. If you're going to be old school about it, you've got to write talk before your text. I'm back after this.
But in disrespecting us, he's only really just showing his contempt for the people who elect him and his contempt for Londoners, that he doesn't want to be transparent with them and doesn't want to be open about what his plans are.
Does he ever speak to you and Alex and other Tories and the other party members? Does he ever speak to you sort of away from the spotlight, away from these kind of scrutiny sessions? Do you have any discourse with him at all?
Yes, yeah, we bump into him in the corridor.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, welcome back. It's time for you to step up to the plate and let me know what you think about all the news stories today. So shall we kick things off with John in Non-Woke Woking. Good morning to you, John.
Hey, Alex, how you doing?
Knackered, my lad. Absolutely knackered. But it's not about me, it's about you.
Poor love.
I know.
I thought Paul Cox was brilliant.
He is, isn't he? He's very good.
Yeah,
I like a bit of
very
news and
happy with
comedy mixed together, because if you don't laugh, you do want to cry.
Well, I'm about to cry now.
Oh no, you'll set me off.
What worries me big time, is we're importing a foreign army, a Muslim army into this country, who probably have guns hidden. So when are we going to get a next Paris? You know, this is going to blow up. This is going to blow up big time. The authorities are so stupid. It beggars belief. There is an army here. Did you see that thing yesterday with that guy who was shouting and screaming in the Muslim thing where don't cooperate with the police?
I don't know what you're on about. I didn't see it.
Did you see it? Oh, the guy who's been given the MBE.
What is that?
I can't remember his name.
Oh, it's a mystery. It's an enigma. Someone's been shouting, don't cooperate with the police. Who is it?
It was on the news all night last night.
Oh, see, I could have been watching that news last night when I wasn't sleeping, but I still throwing myself around my bed pretending I could.
We are at the beginnings of a civil war in this country.
Yeah,
and
I think you're right.
Who thinks anything else is loopy.
I think you're right.
Here to do us harm. ISIS have said they will flood us with terrorists. And Amjad Chowdhury has said his vow is to not slip until the flag of Islam is over number 10 Downing Street. That's their aim, and we've got to stop it.
Well, there will be... I agree with you. That is the aim of Islamism, right? Islamism is that campaigning element. And you're right. If you're a terrorist organisation, first of all, how are you going to make your money? Back in the day, they used to make all their cash money with those poppy fields, didn't they? Selling opium and plying the West full of illegal drugs. But what makes a lot more money than that now is the trafficking. And if you wanted to get people into this country who could form a get-up-and-go militia, you'd send them in on the boats.
Yep, and can you tell me how I distinguish between a moderate Muslim and a jihadi? Because I don't know how to, except he may have an AK-47 or a big knife in his hand.
Well, visually, if you're going to use the Diane Abbott school of thought, that is probably the rule that you would use.
Muslims are. I don't think there's any Muslim. When it comes to Islam, they will all fight.
Well, you know, I'm not going to start making such sweeping statements on air, John, because I will get into deep trouble. And I'm not educated in the ways of the Quran and the Hadith and the various interpretations and schools of thought either. But what I would say is this, John, if they were all non-moderate, given how many millions are already in the country, we'd know it by now. So there must be a fair whack of them out there who mean us no harm whatsoever, do integrate, do uphold British values. Look, a lot of the first generation who came over from places like Pakistan put pictures of the Queen on the wall and served tea and biscuits. So it's not... And actually, that was back in the day when Pakistan was quite a nice place to visit. Tree-lined avenues, cinemas, Lidos, all the rest of it. So no, there is... without a doubt, there is such a thing as a moderate Muslim, because you've got plenty of countries... You look at the UAE, for instance. They've booted out all the Muslim Brotherhood and their extremists and saying, why are you taking the crazy ones? We hate that stuff. So they've they've got to be the moderates as well, right? But you make a very good point about we are taking in the crazies. And if you are a crazy, how are you going to break into this country undocumented? Oh, yeah, throw your passport into the channel and come via a small boat. Absolutely bang on about that. Let's speak now to Lenny, who is in Ashford. Hello there, Lenny.
Well, I believe that Starmer gained power with lies and scamming.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, and so I think we have the right to peaceful protests for a new election. And I truly believe that if the farmers got together, the fishermen got together, and we all united and basically block Britain or the UK until we get the chance of a new election.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting sort of like a national strike among patriots and the sort of ill-served by this government because we are the majority. It would, I mean, if we did actually bring Britain to a grinding halt and marched our way through the streets of London, perhaps that would work. But the difficulty is, of course, first of all, protesting isn't massively in the British bloodstream. We're not like the French, who it's a national sport over there, isn't it? It's not really in our mindset. We're more sort of like, you know, sort of mutter under our breath when we're discontent or, you know, pen a polite but dissatisfied letter. And then these things always get hijacked. And my concern is actually thinking back to Epping Forest, which is, by the looks of things at the outset, was a peaceful protest. Then all of a sudden, the far left are bust in and things start getting tasty. And I wonder when protests do not suit the establishment of the day, they quite enjoy watching things have the volume turned up so they can then shut them down. I don't know if I'm being a conspiracy theorist, but if it is indeed true that there are videos that the police were actively bussing in opposition protesters into the Epping Forest protests, you have to question why.
Well, before your time, I remember the poll tax protesting. And that it's the only protest that I have known that has made the government change its mind, because that was done correctly. And unless we unite, and, you know, I mean, and I'm talking about doing the same as the French, when the French blocked their ports, and if the farmers blocked the motorways, and we all united, and all we want is a fresh election, because this one was won with the lies and scamming.
Well, I think, you know, the problem with this stupid snap election, I want to stop snap elections, quite frankly, because they mean you're not getting a proper interrogation of policies or manifestos. It's a disgusting little pulling the rug out from not just a political opponent's feet, but the voters' feet, therefore. I think it is just not in the spirit of democracy in the slightest. Lenny, my darling, thank you ever so much for your call. Keep your thoughts coming in. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. We're going to be having a bit more of a chinwag with you right at the end of the show. Are we? Oh, yeah, we might be. Yeah, why not? Squeeze it in there. Excuse me. Thank goodness we're going to advert break. You can also send me a WhatsApp on that number, 0344 499 1000, or leave me a voice note. 8722 is the number to text me. If you do that, you've got to write talk before your message. Now, if you haven't watched it yet, it aired last night for the first time. There was an amazing, emotional final interview between the veteran broadcaster, our very own wonderful Mr. James Whale, who, of course, is battling terminal cancer, and his old mucker, leader of Reform UK, Nigel Farage. Have a look.
Thanks, Nigel.
James, you're a complete star.
I hope I've got more than a few weeks, but...
Well, so do I.
That's really made me...
So do I. And you never know, miracles do happen.
They do. They do.
They do happen. Well, your career's been a miracle.
Yeah. Well, it has, considering I had no A-levels, O-levels, CSEs, or even a letter after my name for broadcasting.
You said to me the other day, you've never really had a job.
I haven't.
Well, if he's never really had a job, what's this? My alarm went off blimmin' early this morning. That feels like a job to me, but don't you worry, because I love what I do. It is a pleasure, even though I'm moaning about not having any sleep whatsoever. But don't you worry, the moaning will continue, because coming up after the break is the greatest misanthropist of them all. If there was an Olympic sport of moaning, this man would take gold, because after the break I'm going to be joined by I keep saying my former television husband. He's still hanging on, isn't he? Traipsing around after that broken marriage. Mr. Kevin O'Sullivan is with us after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, hello there. Welcome back to the show. Let's read some messages. Ian in York says, Alex, you are beautiful. Well, not in the mornings, I'm not. Super intelligent, am I? And so politically on the ball, you are a marvel. So please, stop telling us how tired you are. You've got a fab job. We love listening to you. Just get on with it. All right, OK, point taken, Ian. I am really tired, though. Just say it. I'm fine. Paul in Jersey says, Alex, I think they forget that the 12-year-old girl in the Union Jack dress will be 16 at the next election. She may well trigger a wave of fashionable patriotism. Well, this is the thing. I don't think there's any guarantee if you just give 16-year-olds the vote next time round, they're going to vote Labour, not after 4 years of it. But the other thing is, you know, and this is the problem, that girl in the Union flag dress was booted out of school by woke teachers. But it just proves, doesn't it, that schools are infiltrating and brainwashing youngsters with all this woke claptrap, which then sort of leads you back to the idea that, oh, God, maybe they will actually vote Labour after all. Morning, Alex. I was a Labour voter all my life because the Labour Party values were the same as mine. Somewhere along the way, they lost those values. But listening to Matthew Torbett, he speaks those old Labour values. I now see how much they have lost. It's a shame. Best wishes, Clay in Folkestone. It's weird, like the political polls have sort of done this strange switch, haven't they? Where once upon a time, Labour was there, standing up for workers' rights. You know, when the Chinese came over to help us, like, dig bodies out of battlefields after World War I and World War II, they all wanted to stay. And we didn't say to them, yeah, here you go, have citizenship. Thank you for doing all these ghoulish tasks that we couldn't. No, it was the Labour Party and the unions who campaigned to make sure they couldn't, because they saw themselves as standing up for the indigenous working class rights. Hasn't that all changed? Isn't this a weird thing? Let's speak now to the wonderful Mr. Kevin O'Sullivan. Good morning, Kev.
Morning, Alex. I hear you're tired, is that right?
No, I'm fine and perky. Look at your hair. Have you brushed it?
Sorry.
Yeah, look at that. It's nice, isn't it? Nice, looking smart
Yes,
there.
I brushed it. Yeah, I do it once a year.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, looking good.
Whether I need to or not.
So we'd had a long chit-chat yesterday about this, didn't we? Apparently there's more protests planned in Epping Forest this Sunday. They started to get a little bit hot under the collar, where seemingly there are allegations that Essex police were bussing in the protesters, or at least giving them a free ride from the train station to come face to face with the people who want that Migrant hotel shut down. Do you think this is the beginning of a lot more to come? Very interesting editorials today in the paper. You can see how much that Overton window shifted. A lot of people going, well, what do you expect these people to do?
Yeah, I think this is, I mean, I don't take any relish in saying this, but this is probably the first of many. We're going to see a lot of this across the country. There are loads and loads of towns, just like Epping, where the sort of unsuspecting local community suddenly have foisted upon them hundreds, 200, 300, in Epping's case, just 100, just suddenly foisted upon them, a bunch of asylum seekers, foreigners who've just arrived in this country, know nothing about this country, and they start to commit crimes. A story in The Sun yesterday that so far this year, 339 asylum seekers have been charged with serious crimes, 29 of those crimes sexual assaults. And that's what happened in Epping, that an Ethiopian asylum seeker arrived on June the 29th, and by within 8 days was in Chelmsford Magistrates Court charged with 3 sex assaults in Epping. Apparently these allegedly unfolded in 2 days. He denies these charges, but you can understand why the local community are upset. And yes, you're right, there are elements cashing in on this unrest. Obviously, there's the right-wing people, the right-wing thugs, and also the left-wing thugs. What was interesting, but I don't, by the way, I don't think that talk of these people cashing in, which is it's definitely happening, I really don't think that should overshadow the fact that most of the people in these demonstrations are local people who are worried about their kids and their wives and safety on the streets because of these pits. So that should not be forgotten. That said, yes, some right-wing thugs turned up to cause trouble, but incredibly, in the middle of this gathering, this was on Thursday, a load of Antifa, lefties, left-wing thugs turned up at the local station and were apparently escorted into the middle of the fray by the police.
Why? What's going on there, Kev? Look, I hate to sort of stick on a tinfoil hat, but that is a mad operational decision. We had Blexley here for the first hour this morning, and he was saying that that is actually, in his mind, amounts to a criminal offence in itself.
Well, it's a recipe for trouble. I mean, I would have thought that what they should have done is, the police are going on about, oh, well, everybody's got the right to protest. But surely the police's priority should be keeping the peace. If you've got a bunch of angry demonstrators outside a asylum seekers hotel, shall we say, many of the protests coming from the right-wing side of the argument, why would you ship in, escort into the middle of that a bunch of left-wing thugs? I mean, it's bound to kick off. So,
so there you go. So answer your own question. Why do you reckon?
Well, look. I've been to a few of these pro-Palestine marches as a journalist, not taking part, to have a look at them.
I didn't expect you would be.
Can you imagine me? Yeah. From the river to the sea. No. The police favour the pro-Palestine protesters over the pro-Israel protesters. And in this instance, I think the police always favour the left-wing side of the argument. They are woke and they are left, and they favoured the Antifa mob. The stop. They've got their posters saying, stop the far right, refugees welcome. Well, it just seems to me that what the police did the other night was show favouritism to these left-wing thugs.
It does make you wonder, though. It's so weird because we've seen in other protests, people who have come out in defence of Jews during the pro-Palestine marches, the ones told you can't come near here, don't enter the area, it's all going to kick off if you do. And,
The Southport riots started off as seemingly peaceful protests for the first few days, and people were very rightfully not just angry but utterly horrified and disgusted and scared by what happened on that awful day. And then before you know it, there's counter-protesters. Then before you know it, it becomes this massive sort of conflagration, which can then be forcibly closed down. And then people are sent off to prison and told, go home, don't you could do these protests anymore, learn your lesson, be intimidated. And so part of me wonders, I'm not saying I've got any evidence for this, but part of me wonders when they deliberately bring these protesters face to face, if they want it to raise the volume to a certain level, that they can then shut it down.
Yeah, that's what happened on Thursday night in Epping. At 10:30, the police told everybody to go home, otherwise they would be arrested. So in that respect, at least they performed their duty properly then. But look, this is going to happen all over the country. There will be disturbances, just as there were in Southport and last summer generally around the country. And every single time, you're going to get the right wing and the left wing thugs descending on that, and if you like, capitalizing on the disturbance. But the point is, what worries me about that is then you get all the bien-pensant politicians going, oh, this was terrible, these thugs hijacked this situation, oh, these thugs fight, you get Starmer going, far right thugs, so you get this kind of cacophony of cliches, which deflects from what the actual disturbances are about. And they actually always start with local people with genuine concerns. And the source of their concern is the migrant crisis, which is getting worse and worse and worse. So we shouldn't concentrate on talking about the thugs who hijacked the disturbances. We should concentrate on the cause of the disturbance.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're a good old patriot out there who thinks you're helping matters by turning up at these protests and then, getting drunk, throwing projectiles about the place, you're not. You're actually endangering the women and girls you purport to be helping even more by making it impossible for our voice to be heard. So I totally agree there. But do you reckon that this is going to be the first of many? Because, I was saying the other day, we've had a conversation, haven't we, Kev, about this idea that, are we going to have a civil war? What's going to happen? Is it going to kick off? Which European nation's going to kick off first? And it was sort of like, well, when could it happen? Maybe in the next 5 years. Looking at the protests in Spain, looking at what's gone on in Ireland, looking at what is taking place now, even in Poland, dear little Poland, who doesn't seem to have anywhere near the same sort of immigration issues as other parts of Western Europe, you kind of think that day of doom is going to come pretty quickly. We're actually gone past the 11th hour at this point. I'm not sure the centre's going to hold.
No, and if you imagine that there are something like 202 asylum seeker hotels around the country in all sorts of communities. In every single one of those communities, all it's going to take is one of those asylum seekers getting charged with a sexual assault or a rape, and that community will erupt. So that is the sort of trigger for these disturbances. But if you go deeper than that, as I think you're implying, Alex, there's a feeling that the country is on the edge. We've had a year of utter chaos. Everyone is aware that we have a government that grapples with even basic competence. I mean, they are utterly useless and people are worried about it. And that's what these asylum seeker demonstrations are about. They're a howl of rage from the people saying, aren't you going to do something about this? And when we say do something, we don't mean dump more and more migrants.
Right. Yeah, do the opposite.
Yeah, so it's like that poem. What is it?
Oh my goodness! Kevin O'Sullivan's about to quote poetry at 9:45 on a Saturday. Hell has frozen over.
Yeah, what's it go? Things fall apart at the seams. The centre cannot hold. And that's what I'm beginning to feel about this government. And I'm wondering about this government. It is assailed by so many scandals and crises and impossible situations. It's reached a point of kind of ground zero dysfunctionalism. They can't go on like this. They just can't go on like this. People are extremely worried that we are on the edge of total kind of disarray due to this useless government. It's a tinderbox. So your initial question: will there be more of these disturbances? You can put your house on it. Definitely, there will be.
Well, talking about bets, this isn't going to be a bet. This has already been agreed whether he likes it or not. We were talking earlier on air about these pride marches, and I was like, I'm pretty sure we decriminalised homosexuality a gazillion years ago. What is it? What extra rights do these people need? I don't get it. Why do they march around places like Soho where they've got all their gay clubs and be like, we want fairness? It's like, well, you've got it. And then I suddenly thought, hold on, if this is supposed to serve an actual function and go to the heart of communities that have what's the homophobic attitudes, then surely it'd be far better if you had those pride marches snaking through Whitechapel and Brent. And so I've come up with a little idea, and he's been forced to agree to it. I wonder if you'd like this as an exclusive on the political asylum. I'm going to take Dean down to Brent in leather chaps, a gimp mask and a dog collar, and walk him through the streets while he wears pride dealy boppers and film what happens.
I want to see that. Can I come too?
Oh, mate, we could all come. It's going to be brilliant.
Well, listen, I used to live in West Hollywood, which is a very gay-heavy area of Los Angeles. 75% of the population are gay.
Wow.
And the local community used to often gather and march for gay rights.
Yeah.
And you thought, well, hang on a second, you're running the show. What exactly is it? So I'm all for gay rights, and I'm not gay, and I'm sure a lot of these people who demonstrate do feel that they still have a way to go until they get full equality. But I do know what some of them you think, well, exactly what is it? What more do you want?
Right. And like I said, it's not like those pride marches are going through the centre of Rochdale, is it? Do you know what I mean? It is like, if you wanted to reach out to any community and wave a rainbow flag in their face and say you've got to be nice to gay people, you know where to go. But don't you, like I said, Dean's already fully signed up. He's going to be walking around when he's back from Ibiza with a nice tan. That's his only stipulation. He just wants to make sure his bod looks all right before he's exposed to his adoring fans. Kev, amazing having you on the programme, as always, Mr. Kevin O'Sullivan, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we started a new segment last week. Yes, we did, and we enjoyed it so much. We're bringing it back this week. We're going to do every Saturday for the last segment of the show what we're going to call Retro Rewind, with our Virgin collaboration in the form of Mr. Steve Denyer. This weekend's year is going to be 1985. That woke me up. Thank you there, Tech Up. That is what the year's going to be. What happened in that year? What were the number ones? What were the biggest selling films? What were the scandals? We're going to remind you after this.
And I've said, well done to the BBC, because they know they're going to get this
For
backlash.
removing a man's career, you think that's okay?
Look.
His
I said,
ability
well
to earn a living, Ken.
no, not at all. He will bounce back in other guys. Yeah, this is just one aspect of his overall empire that he's got, and I've got every confidence that he will bounce back. Listen, we've got to hold ourselves responsible for some of our action. I've had to do the same thing. I've had to step down from being in a position of responsibility because I acted inappropriately. I lost my temper.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, hello and welcome back to
1985.
There you go. Tech Up's been waiting 3 3/4 hours for this moment. He's got them all the sounds loaded into his special keyboard thing. He's going to be pressing the buttons, making the noises. He's loving it. Look at his little
Look
face.
at him. This is
He's
moment
so
to shine.
delighted, isn't he? He loves it.
This is
that was last week's, though, wasn't it? But 1980. Oh no, what is this week?
This week's.
Is this?
We get on to EastEnders in a bit. We get on to Princess Diana, who gave us one of the most kind of newsworthy moments. Should we start with 1985 in politics? It was Margaret Thatcher against Neil Kinnock, and it was Margaret Thatcher who was really. I mean, she got her second term in '83. So Margaret Thatcher in '85, picture the scene, was completely on top of everything. Spitting Image had just updated her puppet to be kind of this power crazy, you know, Iron Lady and stuff. So she really was. And we had the end of the miners' strike in 1985. That was huge. I mean, it's a huge. Even now, when you look back at the miners' strike and you know, the protests, everything that was going on, it was one of the biggest defining moments in, I would say, in British politics. That people look back, and of course, you know, she was like, no, I'm not having it. This is what I think. And the miners lost, and they backed down.
Yeah.
But it was all going on back in 1985.
I mean, the reverberations of that year and those strikes to this day.
Exactly.
To this day, people bang on about it. And, well, you know, she still won, didn't she?
She did, and you know, there's loads of great interviews with Margaret Thatcher in 1985, and when you look at her, she would say yes and no to questions.
Yeah.
That's the reason why people loved her, because there was no kind of pussyfooting around.
And she had conviction.
She had conviction. You kind of believed in what she was saying.
She had a political system, an ideology, a plan.
And I don't think Neil Kinnock even came close back then. You know, she was remember, she was in power right to the end of the 80s.
It's her own party that
But
did
I would
her,
say
really.
85, she was probably at her most powerful.
The ironest of the Iron Lady.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now tell us about Princess Di. What did she get up to in 1985?
This is bizarre. So picture the scene. This is a black tie gala at the White House. Ronald Reagan and Nancy were, obviously Ronald Reagan was in power. Now apparently it was Nancy's idea to hook up Princess Diana with John Travolta.
What?
And it's like, so they
Only in America.
They got up and danced for like 15 minutes. What not many people know is that Clint Eastwood also danced with her, but nobody cared about him. It didn't even get into the papers. It was the fact that Diana and John Travolta, Prince
What did
Charles,
they dance to? What was the music?
they did a medley of you know, Saturday Night Fever, dance classics. This is in the White House in 1985, and it just made all the headlines. And I think when you look back on it, Prince Charles, as he was called back then, was just very quiet and solemn and at this event, but nobody cared about him. It was absolutely her. It was that dress. That dress sold for £260,000 years later, and it was all eyes on her. And if you've seen The Crown, I think that was the undoing, really, because Prince Charles was like, well, what about me? She was
Right.
getting all the headlines.
Yeah.
Everybody loved her. So she, again, when you're looking at people, figures that were absolutely at the peak of their powers,
Yeah.
Princess Diana.
Oh, wasn't it a
year.
simpler time? It was a simpler time, but it was the beginning of the bad times, wasn't it? Because a certain bit of tech there. Dave's done so
He's good,
well.
isn't he?
Oh, you've done good, haven't you? Look at that.
This is a great year for this technology.
That's triggering, Dave. That reminds me of the morning alarm. Don't do that.
The very first phone call was made by a guy called Michael Harrison. He was the son of Vodafone's chairman.
Yeah.
And it was made on January the 1st, 1985. There was only one network, and it was Vodafone. Do you remember the size of the phones? They were like bricks.
It had its own suitcase, that thing.
It had a suitcase that you opened. It cost, if you were to buy it in 1985, £3,000. The battery power was 30 minutes, and it had no
30 minutes?
And it had no Uber app on it. I mean, what were you meant to do? Or the only thing you could do was make a phone call, and there was only one other person in the world that would answer the phone because only one other person had it.
I ain't going to lie, part of me would like to go back to that era.
It is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, because as much as, I mean, none of us could live without this now, but when you're forced to, I remember once I got well drunk in a private members club down Mayfair, didn't I?
We need a breaking news strap for this story.
With Aaron Banks, of all people. Me and Aaron Banks were like partying it up until the wee small hours, and I just mislaid my phone somewhere. And I was like, so I phoned the club, and they're like, yeah, you can come and get it. This was on a sort of a Friday or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll come and get it on Monday. I thought, do you know what? Stuff it. I'm just going to have the weekend without it and see what happens.
Yeah.
And I thought I'd be rocking backwards and forwards and going mad, but I loved it. It was amazing. Anyway, also 1985, the big musical event.
Yes, Live Aid. We've got to talk about Live Aid. This is the jingle that kicks it off.
No.
I mean, you know, so everyone in the last week has been talking about it. This week is the 40th anniversary of Live Aid. That's why I think it'd be so good to actually kind of feature this year. So Live Aid.
They're going to get out Geldof, aren't they? No.
Wembley Stadium. Some really fun facts about this. Obviously, it was a great. There we go. The midday.
7 a.m. in Philadelphia. And around the world, it's time for Live Aid. 16 hours of live music in aid of famine relief in Africa.
And that kicked it off. That was the announcement that kicked it off. Queen were booked at the last minute. They weren't even top of the bill. That 21-minute set with Freddie Mercury has gone down as the greatest. I mean, so the thing is, they rehearsed. They used all the space. There wasn't 1 second that was dull during that set. Elton John was almost kicked off. Because apparently everybody else was overrunning, and Elton John's set was put in jeopardy. Can you imagine the poor person who had to go to Elton John and say, can you do a shorter set? Can you just do it? Yeah. Phil Collins is the only artist that played both in the US and the UK, thanks to Concorde. So he so he flew from Philadelphia to Wembley, and he performed at both events.
No way, I did not know that. Bring back Concorde. That was a great feature of 1985. I do like an aeroplane, me. Here's a fun little factoid. A shop that I remember as a kid, the Aladdin's Cave of Delight.
Where I got me every Christmas present from. Toys R Us.
As a kid, going down Toys R Us, that funny, the R backwards, I remember always thinking it. But go the shelves of plenty, just everything you could imagine.
The first ever shop was this huge store in Warrington, and it was the biggest toy shop in Europe. Toys R Us did it really well. So remember, everyone was buying BMX bikes and stuff in the 80s. Toys R Us let kids test out the bikes in the store, so you could actually go along and pick which bike you wanted. And it was massive. I mean, it's come back recently as an online thing.
Right.
But obviously, we moved on. Amazon popped up, you know, online shopping and stuff. So all of a sudden, there's so many of these big stores. One moment they were all the rage, and the next minute they're out of business.
I miss physically shopping now. Two of the greatest programmes of all time were launched. The first being
Blind Date, 1985. Cilla Black. Obviously, Cilla Black was the absolute star. It was her show, wasn't it? She was
I love that show.
Really nervous about doing it. She thought it was gimmicky at the beginning. They had to really sell it to her. The amazing thing about Cilla Black doing this show is it was all... She didn't use any kind of cue cards. Yeah. It was just her. It was just that she said, I want to be as real as I can be by talking to the contestants. There were lots of disasters, but a few people got married. There were even blind date babies as a result of some of these relationships.
I don't know why they don't bring that back. It was so good.
Well, they did. They brought it back.
Did they?
They did bring it back. I think it was kind of after Scylla passed, about 2015.
Right.
And it was still okay. They're thinking of bringing it back now.
Bring it back!
But putting the contestants on an island, so making it a bit...
Of course it's on
do you know what I mean? So they kind of Love Island.
Stuff the sodding island. That's what you get when you pick the contestant
the
at the end.
blind date thing.
Right, and what else was launched?
Well, here we go.
What an iconic soundtrack.
EastEnders started in 1985. They wanted like a gritty kind of real life thing that they thought would relate to people, and all of a sudden, within a year, 20 million people are watching this. Do you remember the Dirty Den divorce papers with Ange, that pivotal Christmas Day episode? Happy Christmas, Ange. That got one of the most kind of highly viewed programmes in UK television history. Amazing.
Until good old Line of Duty. Now, what was the biggest selling single? Hello, Peter Cardwell. Look at you sneaking in there. Biggest selling hit single of 1985?
All right, think big hair, power ballad, Jennifer Rush and the Power of Love.
Yes, I love it.
Isn't it?
I love it. Just one of the